She's too old for you. That's what everyone would say if they knew. Daniel Harper, 34, single father, man of routines and responsibilities, falling for a woman nearly a decade older. But standing in that empty office lounge at 11 p.m., rain hammering the windows, Elena Moore's question cut deeper than any judgment ever could. Doesn't it bother you that I'm older? What Daniel didn't know yet was that his answer would change everything. Not just for him, not just for his daughter, but for the family he never imagined he'd build. If you want to see how far love can go when you stop counting years and start counting moments, stay until the end. Hit that like button and comment your city below so I can see how far this story travels. The Keurig machine in the fourth-floor break room had been broken for 3 days. Daniel Harper stood in front of it, like a man at a funeral, staring at the blinking red light that seemed to mock his entire existence. It was 2:47 p.m. on a Wednesday, that dead zone of the work week where coffee wasn't just a beverage. It was a lifeline. His spreadsheet upstairs had 1,200 rows of shipping data that needed reconciliation by 5 o'clock. His daughter's school had sent 2 reminder emails about the parent-teacher conference he kept forgetting to schedule, and his sister had texted him 4 times asking if he was still alive or just pretending. The coffee machine, apparently, had chosen this exact moment to give up on life entirely. Daniel pressed the brew button again. Nothing. He unplugged it, counted to 10 like the instruction manual suggested, plugged it back in. The red light blinked twice, made a sound like a dying cat, then went dark. Fantastic, he muttered, running a hand through hair that desperately needed a cut. Just fantastic. You look like you're negotiating with it. The voice came from behind him, calm, amused, with a warmth that seemed to fill the entire break room. Daniel turned and found himself looking at a woman he'd never seen before, though that wasn't particularly unusual. The building housed 6 different companies, and Daniel had long ago stopped trying to keep track of which faces belonged to which floors. She was standing in the doorway with a leather messenger bag over one shoulder, dressed in a charcoal blazer and dark jeans that somehow managed to look both professional and effortless. Her hair was pulled back in a loose ponytail, a few strands escaping to frame a face that was striking. Not in the conventional way that made you think of magazine covers, but in the way that made you want to keep looking, to figure out what it was about her features that seemed so perfectly balanced. I've tried everything short of percussive maintenance, Daniel said, gesturing helplessly at the machine, which I'm about 3 minutes away from attempting. The woman smiled, a real smile, not the polite half-expression people used in elevators. Percussive maintenance, that's a nice way of saying you're about to hit it. I prefer to think of it as mechanical encouragement. She laughed, a sound that was completely unpracticed, and crossed the room. May I? Daniel stepped aside, watching as she set her bag on the counter and examined the machine with the kind of focused attention usually reserved for bomb defusal. She pressed a sequence of buttons he'd never noticed, held down 2 others simultaneously, then waited. The machine hummed, blinked green, started to brew. How did you? Daniel started. The manual's online, she said simply, pulling a mug from the cabinet. Page 17. Most people never make it past page 3. Daniel stared at the now functioning machine like it had just performed a miracle. You read the manual. For a coffee maker, that isn't even yours. I like solving problems. She filled her mug, then glanced at him. You want one? Yes, thank you. Seriously, you just saved my afternoon. She poured a second cup, handed it to him. Their fingers didn't touch, but Daniel was acutely aware of how close they came. Rough day? Is there any other kind? Daniel took a sip, felt the caffeine hit his bloodstream like a prayer being answered. I'm Daniel, by the way, 4th floor, operations. Elena. She didn't offer a floor or department, just that name, simple and complete. 3rd floor, consulting. They stood there for a moment in the kind of comfortable silence that usually took weeks to develop, both drinking coffee, both seemingly in no rush to return to whatever waited for them upstairs. Daniel found himself noticing small details. The thin silver bracelet on her left wrist, the reading glasses tucked into her blazer pocket, the way she held her mug with both hands like she was warming them, even though it was 72 degrees in the building. So, Elena said eventually, operations. That sounds operational. Daniel laughed despite himself. It's exactly as exciting as it sounds. Logistics coordination, shipping optimization, making sure boxes go from point A to point B without mysteriously ending up in point Q. You? Strategy consulting, which is a fancy way of saying I tell companies things they already know but don't want to admit. Sounds fulfilling. It pays the bills. Elena's expression shifted slightly, something guarded moving behind her eyes. And it keeps me busy. The way she said it, keeps me busy, made Daniel think there was a story there, but he didn't push. He knew the look of someone who'd built walls for good reasons. He'd built plenty himself. Well, he said, raising his mug in a small salute, thanks again for the coffee machine resurrection. You probably saved me from a workplace incident. Elena smiled again, and Daniel noticed for the first time that it didn't quite reach her eyes. Anytime. Good luck with your spreadsheets. She picked up her bag and headed for the door, and Daniel watched her go with a strange feeling he couldn't quite name. It wasn't attraction exactly, or maybe it was, but wrapped in so many layers of other things that he didn't recognize it immediately. Curiosity. Interest. A sense that something had just happened, even if he couldn't define what. The coffee tasted better than it had any right to. Well, that night, after Daniel had picked up his daughter from after-school care, navigated rush-hour traffic with the patience of a saint, and survived the nightly negotiation about whether vegetables counted as real food, he found himself thinking about the woman in the break room. "Daddy, you're not listening." Daniel blinked, refocusing on his 7-year-old daughter, who was giving him the same look she used when he tried to claim that broccoli was actually tiny trees. They were sitting at their small kitchen table, the remains of spaghetti and meatballs between them, and Mia was apparently in the middle of a story about something that had happened at recess. "Sorry, sweetheart. You're right. I zoned out. Tell me again?" Mia sighed with the weight of someone who'd been disappointed by adults many times before. "I said that Jeremy tried to say that his dad could beat up everyone's dad, and I said that wasn't nice because some people don't have dads, and then he said everyone has a dad somewhere, and I said that's not the same thing, and then Mrs. Peterson said we needed to use our inside voices." Daniel felt his chest tighten the way it always did when Mia's mother came up, even indirectly. 3 years since the divorce, 2 years since Sarah had moved to Seattle for a fresh start that apparently didn't include regular visits with their daughter, and it still felt raw. Not because he missed Sarah, that ship had sailed and sunk and been salvaged for parts, but because of moments like this, when he saw Mia grappling with an absence she was too young to fully understand. "You were right," Daniel said carefully. "Having a dad somewhere isn't the same as having a dad who shows up. And you know what? Jeremy probably didn't mean to be hurtful. Sometimes kids say things without thinking. Like adults? Exactly like adults. We're all just kids with bigger bodies and more responsibilities." Mia considered this while twirling spaghetti on her fork with the concentration of a surgeon. "Do you think I'll ever have a mom who shows up?" The question hit Daniel like a physical blow. He set down his fork, reached across the table to take Mia's small hand in his. "You have me, kiddo, every single day, and I know it's not the same, and I'm sorry for that, but I'm here. I'm always going to be here." "I know, Daddy." Mia squeezed his hand, then went back to her spaghetti like the conversation had never happened. That was the thing about 7-year-olds. They could drop emotional bombs and move on while you were still processing the blast radius. Later, after bath time and 2 stories and the inevitable request for just 5 more minutes of reading time, Daniel stood in Mia's doorway and watched her sleep. Her dark hair spread across the pillow, her face peaceful in a way it never quite was during waking hours. She looked so much like Sarah it sometimes hurt. The same sharp cheekbones, the same stubborn chin. But she had Daniel's eyes, gray-green and thoughtful, and she had none of Sarah's restlessness. Daniel pulled the door mostly closed and went to his own room where he did what he did every night. Checked his email, confirmed tomorrow's meetings, set out Mia's school clothes, packed her lunch, reviewed his own calendar, and tried not to think about how this was going to be his life for the next decade at minimum. He wasn't unhappy. That was important to establish. He loved his daughter with a ferocity that sometimes scared him. He had a stable job, a decent apartment, friends he saw occasionally when their schedules aligned. He was fine. But fine wasn't the same as fulfilled, and lately, Daniel had been noticing the difference. 10. He saw Elena again 4 days later. It was Friday afternoon, and Daniel was leaving early for once. Mia had a dentist appointment at 4 when he nearly collided with someone coming out of the third-floor stairwell. Sorry, He stopped. Elena. She looked startled for half a second, then her expression smoothed into recognition. Daniel. Operations, spreadsheets. That's me. Consultant. Coffee machine whisperer. Also me. She adjusted her messenger bag. Leaving early or just escaping? Dentist appointment for my daughter. You? Something shifted in Elena's face. A flicker of surprise, maybe, or reassessment. Client meeting downtown, and you have a daughter? I do. Mia. She's 7 and currently convinced that the Tooth Fairy is a government conspiracy. Elena laughed, and this time it reached her eyes. Smart kid. What gave it away? The fact that the Tooth Fairy's handwriting looks suspiciously like mine. They started walking toward the elevator together, an unconscious synchronization that felt natural. Daniel pressed the button, and they waited in the kind of comfortable silence that was becoming familiar. How old? Elena asked. Mia? 7. I said that already. Sorry, dentist appointments make me nervous. She's never gotten a cavity, and I'm convinced today's the day our streak ends. No, I meant, never mind. Elena shook her head slightly. I'm sure she'll be fine. Kids' teeth are resilient. The elevator arrived. They stepped in. Daniel hit the lobby button. Can I ask you something? Elena said suddenly. Sure. Do you ever feel like you're living the same day over and over? Like you've optimized yourself into a routine so efficient that there's no room left for anything unexpected? Daniel looked at her, really looked at her, and saw something he recognized. A kind of quiet exhaustion that had nothing to do with being tired and everything to do with being stuck. Every day, he said honestly. But then something unexpected happens, like a coffee machine breaking down. Elena held his gaze for a moment, and Daniel felt something shift in the air between them. Not attraction, not yet, but possibility. The sense that maybe, just maybe, there were other people in the world who understood what it felt like to have built a life that worked perfectly on paper and felt completely hollow in practice. The elevator opened. They walked out together. Well, Elena said when they reached the parking garage entrance. Good luck with the dentist. I hope the Tooth Fairy conspiracy remains unconfirmed. Good luck with your client. I hope they listen to things they don't want to admit. She smiled. A real smile, warm and genuine. And Daniel watched her walk to her car with that same strange feeling from before, like something was beginning, even though nothing had actually happened. Bad. Over the next 3 weeks, Daniel and Elena kept running into each other. Not every day, not even every week, but enough that it stopped feeling coincidental and started feeling like something else. Like the universe was gently insisting they pay attention. They talked in the break room about work frustrations, Elena's impossible clients, Daniel's nightmare shipping delays. They compared notes on the best coffee shops near the office, debated the merits of different project management software, complained about the building's unpredictable heating system. Surface-level conversations, the kind you had with friendly acquaintances. But underneath, Daniel felt something else building. A comfort, an ease. The way Elena listened, really listened, not just waited for her turn to talk, reminded him of why he'd fallen in love with Sarah all those years ago. But it was different too, calmer, less urgent, like someone who'd already learned the hard lessons and came out the other side. It was during their 5th or 6th conversation, standing by the 4th-floor windows on a gray Tuesday afternoon, that Daniel started to wonder about Elena's age. She'd mentioned working in consulting for almost 15 years, which would put her well into her 30s at minimum. She referenced events and cultural touchstones from the late 90s and early 2000s with the specificity of someone who'd been an adult then, not a teenager. And there was something in the way she carried herself, a settledness, a comfort in her own skin that spoke of experience. Not that it mattered. Daniel reminded himself of this several times. Age was just a number, and they were just friendly colleagues who occasionally talked by the coffee machine. Except it did matter, in a way he couldn't quite articulate, because the more time he spent with Elena, the more he realized he was attracted to her. Not in the sudden, overwhelming way of his early 20s, but in the slow, inevitable way of someone who'd learned to recognize compatibility when he saw it. Earth to Daniel. He blinked. Elena was watching him with an amused expression, one eyebrow raised. Sorry, he said. Long morning. What were you saying? I was asking if you'd ever considered leaving operations for something else. You mentioned wanting to travel more. Had he mentioned that? Daniel searched his memory and found the conversation from last week, when he'd told Elena about Mia's obsession with National Geographic documentaries, and his own regret that he'd never taken her anywhere more exotic than Chicago. I think about it sometimes, he admitted. But stability matters more right now. Mia needs consistency, especially after her mom. He trailed off, realized he'd never actually told Elena about the divorce. After her mom, what? Daniel hesitated, then figured there was no point in hiding it. Left, 2 years ago. Moved to Seattle. Calls maybe once a month. It's complicated. Elena's expression softened with something that looked like understanding. I'm sorry. That must be hard for both of you. It was. It is. But we're managing. Daniel shrugged, uncomfortable with his own vulnerability. Anyway, stability. That's the priority. Stability's good, Elena said quietly. Stability's underrated. The way she said it made Daniel think there was a story there too. Loss, maybe, or disappointment, or just the accumulated weight of choosing safety over risk. He wanted to ask, but something in her posture told him this wasn't the moment. Instead, he said, What about you? Ever think about leaving consulting? Every day? Elena smiled, but it was tired. But like you said, stability matters, and I've built a good life. Independent, quiet, no complications. No complications sounds nice. It sounds nice, Elena agreed, until it starts feeling lonely. The confession hung between them, honest and raw, and Daniel found himself wanting to reach out, to touch her hand, to say something that would acknowledge the weight of what she'd just shared. But before he could, Elena's phone buzzed. She checked it, sighed. Client emergency. I should go. Yeah. I hope it's not too painful. It's always painful. That's why they pay me. Elena gathered her things, then paused. Daniel? Yeah. Thanks for listening. I don't usually talk like this. Me neither. They stood there for a moment and Daniel saw it clearly, the connection between them, fragile and new, but undeniably real. Elena saw it too. He could tell by the way her eyes lingered, the way she seemed reluctant to leave. Then she left, and Daniel went back to his spreadsheets, and the afternoon continued like nothing had changed. Except everything had changed, because Daniel could no longer pretend he saw Elena as just a friendly colleague. And judging by the way she'd looked at him, careful, considering, almost afraid, Elena knew it too. The shift happened on a Thursday evening 3 weeks later. Daniel was working late, unusual but necessary given the shipping crisis that had consumed his entire week, when he decided he needed caffeine or death, whichever came first. He headed to the break room and found Elena already there, sitting at the small table by the window with her laptop open and a half-eaten salad pushed to the side. Burning the midnight oil? He asked. Elena looked up, and Daniel saw exhaustion written across her face in a way he hadn't seen before. Her hair was down for once, falling past her shoulders, and she'd shed her blazer. She looked younger like this, more relaxed, and also more tired. Trying to finish a presentation for tomorrow, she said. You? Shipping emergency. We lost a container somewhere between Los Angeles and Columbus, and apparently I'm the only person who can find it. How does one lose a container? Very carefully. Daniel grabbed a coffee pod, started the machine. You want one? I shouldn't. It's almost 8. Is that a yes? Elena smiled. It's a yes. Daniel made 2 coffees, brought them to the table, and sat down across from Elena without asking permission. She didn't object, just closed her laptop and accepted the mug with both hands in that way she had. Can I ask you something? Daniel said. That depends on the question. How do you do it? The consulting thing, telling people hard truths all day, every day. Doesn't it wear you down? Elena considered this while she sipped her coffee. It does. But someone has to do it, and I'd rather be the person who tells the truth than the person who pretends everything's fine when it isn't. That's very noble. It's very exhausting. Elena set down her mug. But I chose it. After my marriage ended, I needed something that felt solid, controllable. Consulting gave me that. Daniel felt his heart rate pick up slightly. Marriage, past tense. How long ago? 6 years. Yes. We were married for 8. He wanted kids. I didn't. Or, I did, but not with him. Not in the life we'd built together. That's a terrible thing to realize when you're 34 and you've already invested a decade in someone. The math clicked into place in Daniel's head, sudden and clear. 34, 6 years ago. Which meant Elena was... I'm 43, Elena said, as if reading his mind. In case you were wondering. Daniel had been wondering, but hearing the number out loud still surprised him. Not because Elena looked older, she didn't particularly, but because it meant there was almost a decade between them. 9 years, nearly 10. Oh, he said, because what else was there to say? Elena's expression closed slightly, a door swinging shut. Yeah, oh. I didn't mean... It's fine. Elena stood up, started gathering her things. I should finish this presentation. Elena, wait. Daniel stood too. It doesn't what? Elena turned to face him, and Daniel saw something vulnerable in her eyes, something that looked like anticipation of rejection. Doesn't matter? Doesn't bother you? Be honest, Daniel. I'm too old to pretend age gaps don't mean things. Daniel felt like he was standing on the edge of something important, a moment that would define everything that came after. He could laugh it off, make a joke, let Elena leave with her walls intact, or he could be honest. I was going to say it doesn't change anything, he said quietly, about how I feel when I talk to you, which is interested, more than interested, but I wasn't sure if that was something you'd even want to. Elena stared at him. Daniel, I'm 9 years older than you. I can do math. You have a daughter. I'm aware. Elena stopped, seemed to be searching for words. I'm past the age where I can pretend complicated is romantic. I know what I want. Stability, peace, no drama. And you're in the middle of your life. You're raising a child. You should be with someone who what? Who's younger? Who fits some imaginary timeline better? Daniel took a step closer. Elena, I'm not interested in theoretical compatibility. I'm interested in you. The person I've been talking to for the past month. The person who fixes coffee machines and reads manuals and tells hard truths for a living. That person. Elena's defenses wavered. Daniel saw it happen, saw the moment her careful control cracked just enough to let something else through. I don't do casual, she said finally. I can't. I'm too old for games. I don't want casual. I haven't wanted casual since I was 22 and stupid. Then what do you want? The question hung between them, enormous and unavoidable. Daniel thought about his daughter asleep at home, about his carefully maintained routine, about all the reasons this was probably a terrible idea. Then he thought about the feeling he got when Elena smiled, the way conversations with her felt like coming home. I want to take you to dinner, he said. No pressure, no expectations, just dinner. And a conversation that doesn't have to end because one of us has a meeting. Elena studied him for a long moment, and Daniel forced himself to stay still, to not fill the silence with qualifications or jokes or anything that would let her think he wasn't serious. One dinner, Elena said finally. But Daniel, if we do this, I need you to be sure. I need you to know what you're asking for, because I've been the older woman before, and I've watched men realize too late that they wanted someone who could give them the next 20 years, not someone who's already spent them. I'm not asking for the next 20 years, Daniel said. I'm asking for dinner, and then maybe another dinner, and we'll figure out the rest as we go. Isn't that how this works? Elena laughed, soft and surprised. I don't know anymore. It's been a long time. Me too. They stood there, both holding coffee mugs, both visibly uncertain but unwilling to back down. Outside, Columbus was settling into evening, streetlights flickering on, traffic thinning. Inside the break room, the fluorescent lights hummed their usual song. "Saturday," Elena said. 7 o'clock. There's an Italian place on High Street that doesn't try too hard. I'll need to find a babysitter." "Is that a problem?" "No, I'll make it work." Daniel smiled. "Saturday, 7. Italian food that doesn't try too hard." "It's a date," Elena said, then immediately looked like she regretted the phrasing. "I mean, it's a date," Daniel agreed. "A real one." Elena nodded, gathered her laptop and bag, and headed for the door. But before she left, she turned back. "Daniel, for what it's worth, I'm interested too, more than I planned to be." Then she was gone, and Daniel was alone with his coffee and the sudden, overwhelming realization that he'd just asked out a woman he barely knew who was 9 years older than him, and he had absolutely no idea what he was doing. He was also pretty sure it was the best decision he'd made in years. Saturday arrived with all the subtlety of a freight train. Daniel had managed to arrange for Mia to spend the evening with his sister, which involved approximately 45 minutes of questions about where he was going and why, and with whom, and was this a date, and did this mean Mia was getting a stepmom, and could she be a flower girl if there was a wedding? "It's one dinner," Daniel had repeated for the 6th time while packing Mia's overnight bag. "That's all. Don't make it weird." "You're making it weird by saying not to make it weird," Mia pointed out with the devastating logic of a 7-year-old. She wasn't wrong. Now, standing in front of his bathroom mirror at 6:30 p.m., Daniel was experiencing a level of anxiety he hadn't felt since his first date with Sarah 12 years ago. Was the shirt too formal? Too casual? Should he have gotten a haircut? Was cologne too much? Not enough? His phone buzzed. His sister. "Stop panicking. You look fine. She already said yes, which means she likes you. Now go have fun and stop overthinking everything." Daniel texted back, "I'm not panicking." His sister. "You texted me 3 times asking if blue or gray shirt. You're panicking. Blue. Definitely blue." And breathe. He chose the blue shirt. The Italian restaurant Elena had suggested was small and warm, the kind of place where the owner knew half the customers by name and the menu hadn't changed in 20 years. Daniel arrived 10 minutes early, which gave him plenty of time to second-guess everything. But then Elena walked in and all the nervous energy condensed into a single, clear thought. God, she's beautiful. She was wearing a dark green dress that somehow managed to be elegant and simple at the same time. Her hair loose around her shoulders, minimal makeup. She looked nervous too, which helped. "Hi," she said when she reached the table. "Hi." But Daniel stood, considered going in for a hug, decided on a handshake, then realized that was ridiculous and just gestured at the chair. "You look great." "You too." Elena sat down, and they both immediately grabbed their water glasses like they were life preservers. For about 30 seconds, it was awkward. Then the waiter came and they ordered wine, and Elena made a comment about how the menu's font was aggressively serif, and Daniel laughed, and just like that, they fell back into the easy conversation that had made him want this date in the first place. They talked about work, about Columbus, which Elena had moved to 5 years ago for a job and somehow never left, about their respective divorces, Elena's amicable but sad, Daniel's messy but necessary, about the strange experience of rebuilding a life from scratch in your 30s. "I thought I had it all figured out," Elena said over pasta. The timeline, career by 30, marriage by 32, kids by 35. And when it all fell apart, I had to figure out who I was without that plan. That was harder than the divorce itself. "Did you figure it out?" "Mostly. I learned I value peace more than excitement, independence more than partnership, control more than spontaneity." Elena paused. "Which is why this," she gestured between them, "is terrifying." "Because it's not controlled?" "Because I want it to be something it might not be able to be." Daniel set down his fork. "What do you want it to be?" Elena met his eyes, and he saw the same vulnerability from the break room, raw and honest. "I want it to be real. Not a midlife crisis. Not you trying to prove something about age gaps. Not me trying to recapture something I lost. Just Real. It is real, Daniel said. At least for me. I haven't felt this interested in someone in years. Maybe ever. And yes, you're older than me. But that's not why I like you. I like you because you're smart and honest and you actually listen when people talk. I like you because you fix coffee machines and read manuals and you don't pretend to be something you're not. But what about... Elena stopped, started again. Daniel, I'm 43. I'm not going to give you more kids. I'm not going to be the young partner who has energy for everything. My life is settled, quiet. Are you okay with that? Are you okay with the fact that my life isn't quiet? That I have a daughter who comes first always? That I can't be spontaneous because everything requires planning? That my ex-wife might decide to blow back into town at any moment and complicate everything? Elena smiled slightly. When you put it that way, we both sound like disasters. We sound like adults with baggage. Is there a difference? Not really. They laughed and the tension broke, and Daniel felt something settle in his chest. This was right. Complicated, maybe. Unconventional, definitely. But right. The conversation shifted to lighter topics, books they'd read, movies they'd hated, the absolute worst clients Elena had ever worked with, Mia's latest theory about the Tooth Fairy's connection to the CIA. She sounds amazing, Elena said. She is. She's also exhausting and dramatic and convinced she's smarter than me, which she probably is. Would I... Elena hesitated. Would I get to meet her? Eventually? The question made Daniel's heart skip. Do you want to? I don't know. Maybe. If this, Elena gestured vaguely, becomes something worth meeting over. Fair enough. Daniel signaled for the check. For what it's worth, I think she'd like you. You have the same energy. Calm but competent. Is that your type? Calm but competent? I didn't think I had a type. But apparently yes. They split the check despite Daniel's protests, walked out into the cool October evening. The street was quiet, just a few people walking by, a distant siren, the ambient noise of a city settling into Saturday night. So, Elena said, standing by her car, that was dinner. That was dinner, Daniel agreed. It was good, really good. It was. Elena looked at him, and Daniel saw her making a decision. Do you want to do it again? Yes. Absolutely yes. Even though I'm Elena. Daniel stepped closer, close enough to see the flecks of gold in her brown eyes. The age thing, it doesn't bother me. Not the way you think it should. Maybe I'm naive. Maybe I'm missing something. But right now, standing here with you, the only thing I care about is that I want to see you again, and again after that. And we'll figure out the complicated parts as we go. Elena exhaled slowly, like she'd been holding her breath. Okay, another dinner, and maybe coffee during the week. And maybe walks when we're both working late. And maybe actual conversations about what we want this to be. All of that, Daniel said. I'm in for all of that. They stood there for another moment, and Daniel thought about kissing her. The timing felt right. The mood felt right. But something held him back. Maybe the sense that they had time, that rushing would undermine everything they'd just agreed to. Elena seemed to be thinking the same thing because she smiled and said, I should go. Early client meeting tomorrow. On a Sunday? Consultants don't get weekends. You should know this by now. Noted. Elena unlocked her car, then turned back. Daniel, thank you for being honest, for not making this weird. We're absolutely making this weird, but in a good way. She laughed, got in her car, and drove away, leaving Daniel standing on High Street with the feeling that his carefully controlled life had just become beautifully, terrifyingly uncontrolled. And for the first time in years, he was completely okay with that. The second date happened on a Wednesday evening, which felt appropriately unconventional for a relationship that was already breaking several unspoken rules. They met at a coffee shop near the office, one of those places that took itself very seriously with its single-origin beans and Japanese pour-over methods. Daniel arrived first, ordered 2 cappuccinos based on what he'd observed Elena drinking, and tried not to look like someone who was nervous about a coffee date with a woman he'd already taken to dinner. Elena walked in at exactly 6:15, still in her work clothes but with her blazer shed and her hair pulled back in that loose ponytail he was beginning to recognize as her end-of-day look. She spotted him immediately, smiled, and something in Daniel's chest loosened. "You ordered already," she said, sliding into the seat across from him. "I took a chance. Cappuccino, right?" Good memory. Elena wrapped her hands around the cup, and Daniel noticed she did this every time, like the warmth mattered more than the caffeine. "How was your day? Any containers lost in the continental United States?" "Only 2. I'm getting better at this." Daniel sipped his coffee. "Client emergencies?" 3. "But who's counting?" Elena's expression shifted into something more serious. "I've been thinking about what you said. At dinner." Daniel's pulse picked up. "Which part?" "The part about figuring out the complicated things as we go. I need to be clear about something." "Okay." Elena took a breath and Daniel recognized the look of someone gathering courage to be vulnerable. "I'm not good at casual. I tried it after my divorce, dated a few people, and I hated every minute of it. The ambiguity, the wondering where things were going. I need clarity, even if that makes me high maintenance or demanding or—" "It doesn't," Daniel interrupted. "It makes you honest, which is exactly what I want too." "You say that now." "But Daniel, in 3 months, when you realize that dating someone my age means different priorities, different energy levels, different—" "Elena." Daniel reached across the table, not quite touching her hand, but close enough that she could feel the intention. "Can I tell you what I did last night?" She looked confused, but nodded. "I put Mia to bed, did the dishes, reviewed her homework, packed her lunch for today, laid out her clothes, checked my work email, and fell asleep reading a book about supply chain optimization. That's my life. That's been my life for 3 years. I don't have energy for clubs or spontaneous road trips or whatever you think younger guys are supposed to want. I want dinner conversations and compatibility and someone who understands that my daughter comes first, but there's still room for something real." Elena's expression softened. "That's what you want right now. But people change. Situations change." "You're right, they do. Which is why I'm not promising you forever on date number 2. I'm promising you honesty, intention, the willingness to figure this out together instead of assuming it won't work." Daniel paused. "Unless you don't want to figure it out, which is fine. But say it clearly instead of hiding behind the age thing." For a moment, Elena just stared at him. Then she laughed, surprised and genuine. "You're direct. I learned it from a consultant who tells people hard truths for a living." "Fair point." Elena finally took his hand, laced her fingers through his. Her skin was warm from the coffee cup. "Okay, clarity. I like you. More than I expected to. More than is probably wise given how recently we met. I want to keep seeing you. But I also need you to understand that if this becomes serious, there are things I can't give you." "Like what?" "More children. I'm done with that chapter. I made peace with it years ago." Elena's voice was steady, but Daniel heard the weight behind the words. "If you want more kids, I have a kid. One is plenty." Daniel squeezed her hand. "What else?" "I'm set in my ways. I like my routines, my quiet evenings, my independence. I won't be the girlfriend who's available every night, or who wants to move in after 6 months, or who's willing to completely reshape her life around yours." "Good, because I have a 7-year-old who's already reshaped my entire existence. I don't need you to do that. I need you to be yourself and let me be myself, and we'll find the space where those things overlap." Elena studied him for a long moment, searching his face for something. Whatever she found must have satisfied her because she nodded. "Okay, we'll try this. But Daniel, the minute you start feeling like the age gap is a problem, you tell me. You don't hide it or pretend it's fine. You tell me. Same goes for you. The minute you start feeling like my kid is too much or my life is too chaotic, you tell me. Deal." They sat there, hands linked across the table, both visibly relieved to have cleared the air. Around them, the coffee shop hummed with other people's conversations, the hiss of the espresso machine, the gentle acoustic music that probably came from a playlist called Coffee House Vibes, or something equally uninspired. "So," Daniel said eventually, Now that we've established our relationship parameters over overpriced coffee, what do people do on second dates? I have no idea. It's been approximately a decade since I did this. Want to walk? There's a park 2 blocks away. In October? In Ohio? I'll brave the 50-degree weather if you will. Elena smiled, that full smile that made her eyes crinkle at the corners. You're ridiculous. Is that a yes? It's a yes. They walked to the park, still holding hands, and talked about everything and nothing. Elena told him about her brother in Portland, who kept trying to set her up with his divorced friends. Daniel told her about his sister who'd interrogated him for 30 minutes about this mystery woman he was seeing. They compared notes on their respective families' opinions about their life choices, found common ground in the universal experience of disappointing parents who'd had very specific expectations. My mother still introduces me as her daughter who's very successful in business, Elena said, her breath visible in the cooling air. Like she's apologizing for the fact that I'm not married with grandchildren. My dad refers to me as the one who stayed in Ohio. He doesn't mean it as a compliment. Where did he want you to go? Anywhere more impressive? New York, San Francisco, somewhere that sounds good at dinner parties? Daniel shrugged. But I like Columbus. It's stable, affordable. Good schools for Mia. Stability's underrated, Elena said, echoing her words from their first real conversation. You said that before. In the break room. Did I? You did. Right after you told me you'd built a good life with no complications. Elena laughed softly. That feels like a lifetime ago. Also, I'm pretty sure I jinxed myself. You're definitely a complication. The best kind? Too soon to tell. Ask me in 3 months. They walked until the park's lights came on, golden against the darkening sky, and Daniel felt something he hadn't felt in years. Contentment. Not excitement, not the rush of new attraction, but the deeper satisfaction of being with someone who felt right. Easy, like coming home. When he dropped Elena at her car, she turned to him and said, I had a good time. Again. Again, Daniel agreed. When can I see you next? Friday? If you can get a babysitter? I'll make it work. This time, when Elena looked at him, Daniel saw the question in her eyes, the same one he'd been wondering about since Saturday. But before either of them could act on it, Elena's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, sighed. Client, she said. I should go. Yeah, I'll text you. You better. She left and Daniel drove home with the radio off, wanting to preserve the quiet peace of the evening. His sister had already put Mia to bed, and she greeted him at the door with a knowing smile. Good date? Really good date. You're smiling like an idiot. I'm aware. His sister grabbed her coat, paused at the door. Danny? I'm happy for you. You deserve this. Thanks, sis. After she left, Daniel checked on Mia, still asleep, one arm flung over her head in the dramatic way she had, and then sat in his living room with a cup of tea, thinking about Elena's words. The clarity she needed, the boundaries she'd drawn, the honesty she'd demanded. It was refreshing, he realized. No games, no wondering, just 2 adults being clear about what they wanted and what they could offer. His phone buzzed. Elena. Made it home. Thank you for tonight, for understanding. Daniel. Thank you for being clear about what you need. It helps. Elena. Friday still works? Daniel. Friday works. Can't wait. He meant it. The relationship developed over the next 6 weeks with the kind of steady intentionality that characterized both of their personalities. They saw each other twice a week, sometimes 3 if schedules aligned. Dinners, coffee. One memorable Saturday afternoon at an art museum where they spent 2 hours arguing about abstract expressionism and whether Jackson Pollock was a genius or a fraud. They texted throughout the day, nothing excessive, just small check-ins that made Daniel feel connected even when they were apart. Elena still hadn't met Mia. They discussed it carefully, both agreeing that introducing a new partner to a 7-year-old required certainty they didn't quite have yet. But Daniel talked about his daughter constantly, and Elena listened with genuine interest, asking questions about Mia's school projects and friendship dramas, an ongoing investigation into the Tooth Fairy conspiracy. She sounds exactly like you, Elena said one evening over Thai food. God help us all if that's true. I mean it. The way you describe her, methodical, questioning everything, needing things to make sense. She gets that from you. Daniel considered this. Sarah used to say Mia was too serious for a kid, like it was a flaw. Elena's expression hardened slightly. Being thoughtful isn't a flaw. It's a gift. Your ex sounds like someone who confused depth with difficulty. That's actually a perfect description of our marriage. Daniel set down his fork. She wanted everything to be easy, light, fun. And when it wasn't, when real life showed up, she checked out. Her loss. Yeah, but also, I don't want to be the guy who trash talks his ex. Mia loves her mom, even though Sarah's barely present. It's complicated. Most real things are. Elena reached across the table, took his hand. For what it's worth, I think you're doing an amazing job. Single parenting isn't easy, and you're showing up every day. Some days are better than others. That's true for everyone, parenting or not. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, and Daniel felt grateful for Elena's lack of judgment. She didn't offer unsolicited advice about Mia, didn't try to insert herself into his parenting, just listened and supported and accepted that his daughter was a fundamental part of his life. It was on their 8th date, a Friday evening in late November, that things shifted. They were at Elena's apartment for the first time, a decision that had felt significant enough that they'd discussed it beforehand. Daniel had arranged for Mia to stay overnight at his sister's, which Mia had greeted with approximately 40 questions about whether this meant Daniel was getting married. It means I'm having dinner with a friend, Daniel had said, which was technically true even if it felt insufficient. Elena's apartment was exactly what Daniel had expected. Clean, organized, decorated with care, but not fussiness. Lots of books. A few pieces of good art. A kitchen that looked actually used, not staged. It felt like her. Comfortable. Intentional. Wine? Elena asked, already pulling a bottle from the rack. Please? She poured 2 glasses of red, handed him one, and they settled on her couch with the kind of ease that came from weeks of getting to know each other's rhythms. Outside, early winter darkness had settled over Columbus, and inside, Elena's apartment was warm and softly lit. I like your place, Daniel said. Thank you. It took me a year to make it feel like home after the divorce. I kept wanting to decorate it like the house I'd shared with my ex, then realized I needed to figure out my own taste first. What was the house like? Beige. So much beige. My ex-husband believes strongly in neutral palettes. Elena gestured at her deep blue walls, the burgundy throw pillows. This felt like a rebellion. A very tasteful rebellion. The best kind. They talked about work, about Mia's upcoming school play, about Elena's brother's latest attempt to convince her to move to Portland. Normal conversation, easy and familiar. But underneath, Daniel felt something building, a tension that had been growing for weeks since that first almost kiss outside the Italian restaurant. Can I ask you something? Elena said suddenly. Always. Are you happy? With this? With us? She gestured vaguely between them. I know it's only been 2 months, but I need to know if this is what you expected. Daniel set down his wine glass, turned to face her fully. It's better than what I expected. Why? Are you having doubts? No, the opposite. Elena looked nervous, which was rare enough to make Daniel pay close attention. I think I'm falling for you, which terrifies me because I swore I wouldn't do this again, wouldn't risk feeling this much for someone who might wake up one day and realize they want something different. Elena, let me finish. She took a breath. I know we said we'd figure things out as we go, and I meant that. But I also need to know if you're feeling the same way, if this is becoming something real for you too. Because if it's not, if this is just nice and convenient and pleasant, I need to know now before I get any more attached. Daniel felt his heart rate pick up, not from anxiety, but from the recognition that they'd reached one of those moments that would define everything that came after. He could play it safe, hedge his bets, keep things casual. Or he could be honest. I'm falling for you too, he said quietly. I have been for weeks. Maybe since that first conversation in the break room when you fixed the coffee machine and looked at me like I was a competent adult instead of a mess of responsibilities. I think about you constantly. I plan my days around when I might see you. I tell Mia stories about work, and half of them are actually about you. Elena's eyes were bright. Really? Really? And yes, it scares me too, because my life is complicated and there's no easy way to integrate you into it. But I want to try. I want you to meet Mia. I want to figure out what it looks like for us to be together in a real way, not just dinners and coffee dates. When you say real way, I mean I want you to be my girlfriend. I want us to be in a relationship, an actual, defined, this is what we are to each other relationship. Daniel took her hand. If that's what you want too. Elena smiled, and it was the most unguarded expression Daniel had ever seen on her face. That's what I want, very much. Yeah? Yeah. They sat there for a moment, both grinning like idiots, and then Elena leaned in and kissed him. It wasn't their first kiss. They'd managed a quick one after their fourth date, hurried and slightly awkward in a parking lot. But this was different, slower, deeper, the kiss of two people who'd decided to stop holding back. When they finally pulled apart, Elena rested her forehead against his. I can't believe I'm 43 and acting like a teenager. I can't believe I'm 34 and feel like I'm doing this for the first time. Is that a good thing? The best thing. They spent the rest of the evening on her couch, talking and kissing and occasionally remembering to drink their wine. Daniel told her about his marriage to Sarah, the slow erosion of connection, the relief when it finally ended. Elena told him about her ex-husband, a good man who wanted a different life than she could give him, and how they'd separated with sadness, but without bitterness. He's remarried now, Elena said. Has 2 kids. I get a Christmas card every year with their family photo, and I'm genuinely happy for him. That's what he wanted. What he deserved. Do you ever regret it, not having kids? Elena was quiet for a moment. Sometimes, but not the way you might think. I don't regret not being a mother. I regret not being sure enough of myself at 34 to tell him earlier. I wasted 2 years of both our lives trying to want something I knew I didn't want. You were trying to make it work. I was trying to be someone I wasn't. There's a difference. Elena turned to look at him. That's why I need you to be sure, Daniel, about the age thing, about dating someone who's made very specific choices about her life. Because I won't change my mind. I won't suddenly decide I want kids or that I'm willing to start over in some fundamental way. This is who I am. I know, and this is who I am, a single dad with a daughter who comes first, who needs stability more than excitement, who's already done the chaos of early parenthood and has no desire to repeat it. Daniel cupped her face in his hand. We fit, Elena. Not despite our baggage, but because of it. We both know what we want, what we don't want. We're both past the age of pretending. When did you get so wise? I've been practicing. Elena kissed him again, and this time there was less hesitation, more certainty. They were doing this, really doing this, building something together. When Daniel finally left around midnight, promising to text when he got home, Elena walked him to the door and said, Next time Mia's with your sister, stay. Daniel's heart skipped. Yeah? Yeah, if you want to. I want to. Good. He drove home with the radio loud, feeling 25 and invincible despite being neither. His sister was still awake when he arrived to pick up Mia, and she took one look at his face and grinned. That good, huh? Better? I'm happy for you, little brother. You deserve someone who makes you smile like that. Daniel gathered his sleeping daughter from the guest room, carried her to the car with practiced ease, and drove home through empty Columbus streets. Mia woke up just enough to ask if they were home yet, then fell back asleep against his shoulder as he carried her inside. After tucking her in, Daniel sat in his own bed and texted Elena. Made it home. Thank you for tonight, for everything. Elena, thank you for being brave enough to ask for what you want. Sleep well. Daniel, you too. See you Monday? Elena, coffee at 10? Daniel, it's a date. He fell asleep still smiling, already counting the hours until he'd see her again. The weeks that followed were a crash course in integrating 2 separate lives. Daniel and Elena fell into a rhythm. Coffee breaks during the work week, dinners on Friday nights, occasional weekend afternoons when Daniel could arrange childcare. They talked about meeting Mia, planned it carefully, then rescheduled twice because Daniel wanted to be absolutely certain the timing was right. I'm not worried about you liking her, Daniel explained one evening. I'm worried about her getting attached too quickly. She's been asking about you. She knows you exist. What does she know? That you're someone I've been seeing, that you're nice, that you make me happy. Daniel paused. She asked if you're going to be her new mom. Elena's expression flickered with something complex. Surprise, maybe worry. What did you tell her? That nobody's replacing anybody, that you're important to me and I want her to meet you, but that doesn't mean everything's changing overnight. How did she take it? She said okay and went back to building a Lego castle. So either she's very mature about relationships or she doesn't actually care that much. Elena laughed. Probably a mix of both. Kids are resilient like that. Still, I want to do this right. She's already had one parent disappear from her life. I won't let her get close to someone unless I'm sure they're staying. And are you sure I'm staying? Daniel met her eyes. Yes. Are you? Yes, Elena said without hesitation. I'm not going anywhere. They planned the meeting for a Sunday afternoon in early December. Neutral territory, low pressure, with an exit strategy if things went poorly. The Columbus Zoo, which Mia loved and which provided plenty of distractions if conversation got awkward. Daniel picked up Elena at noon, and she climbed into his car looking nervous in a way he'd never seen before. It's going to be fine, he said. What if she hates me? She won't hate you. What if I say something wrong? I don't know how to talk to 7-year-olds. You talk to them like small adults with fewer filters and more questions about dinosaurs. Elena took a deep breath. Okay, I can do that. They picked up Mia from Daniel's sister's place, and for the first few minutes, his daughter was uncharacteristically quiet, studying Elena with the intense focus she usually reserved for math problems. Hi, Mia, Elena said from the front seat, turning to smile at her. Your dad's told me a lot about you. He's told me about you too, Mia said. He said you're very smart and you fix coffee machines. I do fix coffee machines. What else did he tell you? That you make him happy, and that you don't like beige. Elena laughed, surprised. Both of those things are very true. What color do you like? Purple, and also green, but not together because that looks weird. I agree. Some colors shouldn't be friends. From there, conversation flowed more easily. Mia asked Elena approximately 60 questions during the drive to the zoo, where she lived, what kind of car she drove, if she had any pets, what her favorite animal was, whether she believed in the tooth fairy. I believe the tooth fairy is a social construct designed to make losing teeth less traumatic, Elena said seriously. Mia turned to Daniel with wide eyes. Dad, she knows. I told you she was smart. At the zoo, they wandered from exhibit to exhibit, and Daniel watched Elena interact with his daughter with a combination of relief and growing affection. She didn't try too hard, didn't talk down to Mia, just treated her with the same straightforward honesty she brought to everything else. When Mia wanted to spend 20 minutes watching the elephants, Elena stood beside her and answered questions about elephant social structures with the patience of someone who actually cared about the answers. When Mia got tired and cranky, Elena suggested ice cream without making it seem like a big deal. Can Elena come over for dinner? Mia asked on the drive home, apparently having decided Elena was acceptable. Daniel glanced at Elena, saw her slight nod. If she wants to. Elena? I'd love to. Dinner was pizza and salad at Daniel's apartment, and while it wasn't fancy, it felt right. Mia showed Elena her room, her extensive Lego collection, her favorite books. Elena asked questions and listened to the answers and didn't try to be anything other than herself. After dinner, while Mia was distracted by a TV show, Elena helped Daniel clean up in the kitchen. That went well, she said quietly. Better than well. She likes you. I like her too. She's remarkable, Daniel. You've done an incredible job. We've done an incredible job. She's raised herself as much as I've raised her. Daniel dried a plate, set it aside. Thank you for being so good with her, for not trying too hard. I just treated her like a person, small person, but still a person. Not everyone does that. Elena leaned against the counter, watched Mia through the doorway. Can I ask you something? Always. What happens now? Do I become part of her life? Part of your lives? Daniel set down the dish towel, took Elena's hands. If you want to be. I know it's fast. I know we've only been together for 3 months. But I also know how I feel about you, and I know that whatever this is, It's real, so yes, if you want to be part of our lives, there's room for you here. Elena's eyes filled with tears, which she blinked back quickly. I want that. Very much. Yeah? Yeah? Mia appeared in the doorway, clutching her favorite stuffed elephant. Elena, do you want to see my elephant collection? I would love to see your elephant collection. Daniel watched them walk down the hall together, Mia chattering about each elephant's name and origin story, Elena listening with genuine interest. Something in his chest felt full, complete in a way it hadn't been in years. This was his life now. His daughter, his girlfriend, his small family expanding to include someone new. It was terrifying and wonderful, and exactly what he hadn't known he needed. Later, after Mia was in bed and Elena was getting ready to leave, Daniel walked her to her car. She's amazing, Elena said. Truly, you should be very proud. I am, and thank you for today, for being yourself. That's the only person I know how to be. I know. It's one of the things I love about you. The word hung between them, love, unintentional but undeniable. Elena's eyes widened slightly. Did you just... I did, and I meant it. Daniel's heart was racing, but he kept his voice steady. I love you, Elena. I know it's soon. I know we're supposed to wait some appropriate amount of time, but I do. I love you. Elena's smile was brilliant, transformative. I love you too. I have for weeks. I just didn't know how to say it without sounding crazy. We can be crazy together. Deal. They kissed in the parking lot under the December stars, and Daniel felt certain, more certain than he'd been about anything in years, that this was right. That Elena was right. That somehow, against all the conventional wisdom about age gaps and timing and complicated lives, they'd found something worth keeping. Christmas came with complications Daniel hadn't anticipated. Sarah called 3 days before the holiday, her voice bright with the artificial cheer she always adopted when she wanted something. Daniel was at his desk reviewing shipping manifests when his phone lit up with her name. He almost didn't answer. Hey, he said, keeping his tone neutral. Danny, hi, how are you? How's my baby girl? Daniel gritted his teeth at the possessive pronoun. Mia's fine. She's doing well in school. Made the honor roll again. That's wonderful. She's so smart. She gets that from me, you know. Sarah laughed like this was a joke they shared. Listen, I know this is last minute, but I'm coming to Columbus for Christmas. I thought I could take Mia for a few days. You know, mother-daughter time. We could go shopping, see the Nutcracker, do the whole holiday thing. Daniel felt his stomach drop. You're coming here. When? I'm flying in on the 23rd. I've already booked a hotel downtown. The Hilton. Very nice. Sarah, you can't just show up and expect to take Mia for days. She has plans. We have plans. What plans could a 7-year-old possibly have? Danny, I'm her mother. I have rights. You have rights you haven't exercised in 6 months. You missed her birthday. You missed Thanksgiving. You can't just breeze in when it's convenient and expect everything to revolve around you. There was a pause, and when Sarah spoke again, her voice had an edge. Is this about that woman? Mia mentioned someone named Elena on our last call. Are you seriously trying to replace me? Daniel closed his eyes, counted to 5. Nobody's replacing anybody. Elena is someone I'm seeing. Mia's met her. They get along. That has nothing to do with you showing up unannounced. It has everything to do with it. I don't want some stranger around my daughter while I'm trying to rebuild our relationship. Then maybe you should have been around for the past 2 years building that relationship. Daniel's voice was sharper than he intended. Look, if you want to see Mia, fine. But it needs to be on terms that work for her, not just for you. I'm her mother, Danny. Then act like it, consistently. Not just when you feel guilty or lonely or whatever is driving this sudden maternal instinct. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was smaller. I know I've screwed up. I know I haven't been there. But I'm trying, okay? Can't you give me credit for trying? Daniel felt the familiar tug of guilt that Sarah had always been able to invoke. She wasn't a monster. She was just someone who'd made choices that prioritized herself over their daughter, and Daniel was tired of making excuses for it. You can see her, he said finally. Christmas Eve, from noon to 6, at my place. That gives you 6 hours. Make them count. Thank you, really. Thank you. And Sarah? If you're bringing a boyfriend or fiancé or whatever, I need to know in advance. There's no one, it's just me. After they hung up, Daniel sat at his desk staring at nothing, feeling the careful equilibrium of his life tilt sideways. He needed to tell Mia. He needed to tell Elena. He needed to figure out how to navigate his ex-wife's sudden reappearance without letting it derail everything he'd built. His phone buzzed. Elena. Coffee break in 10. I need a sanity check on a client proposal. Daniel. Make it 15 and I'll need a sanity check on my ex-wife showing up for Christmas. Elena. I'll bring the coffee. You bring the drama. They met in the break room, which had become their unofficial headquarters for processing life's complications. Elena took one look at Daniel's face and set down 2 cups of coffee she'd brought from the good place down the street. Okay, she said. Tell me everything. Daniel explained the phone call, Sarah's plans, his agreement to let her see Mia. Elena listened without interrupting, her expression shifting from surprise to concern to something harder to read. How do you feel about it? She asked when he finished. Angry. Frustrated. Also guilty because I'm angry and frustrated. Daniel ran his hands through his hair. I want Mia to have a relationship with her mom, but I also don't want Sarah to break her heart again. She does this. Shows up, makes promises, disappears, and Mia's the one who pays for it. What does Mia know? Nothing yet. I wanted to talk to you first. Elena's expression softened. Why? Because you're part of this now, part of our lives. And I need to know if Sarah being here is going to be weird or uncomfortable or... Daniel. Elena took his hand. I'm not threatened by your ex-wife. She's Mia's mother. Of course she should see her daughter. My only concern is Mia and you. You're sure? I'm sure. Elena paused. But I do think I should make myself scarce on Christmas Eve. This should be their time, not complicated by me being there. You were supposed to come for dinner. Mia's been planning it for a week. I know, and I will. Just not on Christmas Eve. We can do our own celebration on Christmas Day after Sarah leaves. Elena squeezed his hand. It's one day, Daniel. We have plenty of other days. Daniel felt something loosen in his chest. Have I mentioned that I love you? Not in the last 48 hours. I was starting to worry. I love you. Thank you for being so understanding about this mess. It's not a mess. It's just life. Complicated, inconvenient life. Elena smiled. Now go tell Mia her mom's coming, and be prepared for every possible reaction from excitement to anger to complete indifference. Daniel told Mia that evening over dinner, watching her face carefully for clues about how she was processing the information. Mom's coming here? Mia set down her fork, her expression unreadable. Like, to our apartment? Yes, on Christmas Eve. She wants to spend time with you. See how you're doing. Why now? It was such an adult question that Daniel felt his heart break a little. I don't know, sweetheart. Maybe she's been thinking about you, missing you. She could have called more if she missed me. You're right. She could have. Daniel wasn't going to lie or make excuses. Mia deserved honesty. But she's trying now, and I think it's worth giving her a chance. What do you think? Mia picked at her spaghetti, her face scrunched in concentration. Will Elena be here? Not on Christmas Eve. That day is just for you and your mom. But Elena will come on Christmas Day for our regular dinner. Okay. Mia looked up. Can I ask Mom about Seattle? I want to know if she's seen any orcas. You can ask her anything you want. Even about why she left? Daniel's throat tightened. Even that, if you want to. Mia nodded, seeming satisfied with this answer, and went back to eating. Daniel watched her, marveling at her resilience and also mourning the fact that she needed it. Christmas Eve arrived with fresh snow and Sarah's rental car pulling up at exactly noon. Daniel watched from the window as his ex-wife climbed out, looking polished and put together in designer jeans and a cashmere coat he knew cost more than his monthly rent. She'd cut her hair shorter, dyed it lighter, lost weight. She looked like someone playing the role of successful divorcee. She's here, he told Mia, who was sitting on the couch pretending to read but actually vibrating with nervous energy. I know. I saw. The doorbell rang. Daniel opened it to find Sarah holding an enormous bag from some expensive toy store, her smile bright and brittle. "Danny, you look good." "Sarah, come in." She stepped inside and Daniel saw her taking in the apartment with barely concealed judgment. He knew what she was seeing, the modest furniture, the toys in bins, the art projects on the refrigerator. Not the life she'd wanted, not the life she'd chosen. Then Mia appeared, and Sarah's expression transformed into something that looked almost genuine. "Mia, oh my goodness, you've gotten so big." "People usually get bigger when time passes," Mia said, which made Daniel suppress a smile. Sarah knelt down, pulled Mia into a hug that Mia tolerated but didn't quite return. "I've missed you so much, baby, so much." "Hi, Mom. I brought you presents. Want to see?" For the next 6 hours, Daniel made himself scarce in his own apartment, giving Sarah and Mia space while staying close enough to intervene if needed. He caught fragments of conversation, Sarah talking about Seattle, about her job, about the amazing restaurants and coffee shops. Mia asking careful questions, her voice giving away nothing. Around 3 o'clock, he heard Mia ask, "Are you coming back to Columbus?" "Oh, honey, my whole life is in Seattle now. My job, my apartment, everything. But I'm going to visit more, I promise. And maybe you can come stay with me in the summer." "You said that last year." "I know, and I'm sorry I didn't follow through, but this time will be different." Daniel listened to this exchange from the kitchen, his hands gripping the counter, fighting the urge to walk in and call Sarah out on promises she probably wouldn't keep. But Mia needed to navigate this relationship herself, needed to learn who her mother was with clear eyes. When 6 o'clock came, Sarah seemed reluctant to leave. She hugged Mia multiple times, took approximately 40 photos, extracted promises that Mia would call her more often. "Can I talk to you?" Sarah asked Daniel, gesturing toward the door. They stepped into the hallway, and Sarah's polished veneer cracked slightly. "She's amazing," Sarah said. "So smart and mature and self-possessed. You've done an incredible job." "Thank you." "I mean it, Danny. I know I haven't been there. I know I've failed her. But seeing her today..." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "I want to be better. Do better." "Then do it. Don't tell me. Don't tell her. Just do it." Sarah nodded, wiped her eyes. "This Elena person. Is it serious?" "Very serious." "Does Mia like her?" "Very much." "Good. That's good. Mia deserves stability. People who show up." Sarah's voice broke slightly. "Even if I can't be that person." Daniel felt an unexpected wave of compassion. "You could be, Sarah, if you wanted to, but it requires consistency, not grand gestures, just showing up regularly." "I know." She straightened her shoulders, pulled herself together. "I'm flying out tomorrow, back to real life. But I'll call, every week, I promise." Mia will appreciate that. After Sarah left, Daniel found Mia sitting on the couch, staring at the pile of presents her mother had brought. Expensive toys, designer clothes, things that screamed guilt. "You okay, kiddo?" "She's not coming back, is she? I mean, she'll visit maybe, but she's not moving here. She's not going to be like Elena." Daniel sat beside her, pulled her close. "Probably not, no. Your mom loves you, but she loves her life in Seattle more. That doesn't mean you're not important. It just means people make choices, and sometimes those choices hurt other people." "I know." Mia leaned against him. "I'm not sad. I was sad before, but now I'm just used to it." The casual acceptance in her voice nearly broke Daniel's heart. 7 years old and already resigned to her mother's absence. He held her tighter, wishing he could shield her from this particular pain. "Elena's coming tomorrow, right?" Mia asked. "Right. For Christmas dinner, like we planned." "Good. I like when Elena's here. She makes things feel normal." Christmas Day was quieter, gentler. Elena arrived at noon with homemade cookies and a carefully chosen present for Mia. A telescope, because Mia had mentioned wanting to study constellations. Not expensive, not showy, just thoughtful. "This is perfect," Mia breathed, already reading the instruction manual. Dad, can we set it up tonight? Absolutely. They spent the day cooking together, playing board games, watching Mia test out her new telescope from the apartment balcony despite it being full daylight. Elena fit into their rhythm like she'd always been there, and Daniel found himself watching her with Mia, feeling grateful for the calm certainty she brought to their lives. That night, after Mia was asleep and Elena was getting ready to leave, Daniel walked her to her car through the fresh snow. "Thank you," he said, "for yesterday, for giving us space, for today, for being exactly what we needed. I didn't do anything special. You did. You showed up, consistently, no drama, no demands, just steady presence." Daniel pulled her close. "Mia said you make things feel normal. That's not nothing." Elena rested her head against his chest. "She's a remarkable kid, Daniel. What Sarah said was true. You've done an incredible job." "We're doing an incredible job, present tense, team effort. Are we a team?" "I think we became a team the minute you fixed that coffee machine." Daniel kissed her forehead. "Move in with me." Elena pulled back, eyes wide. "What?" The words had come out without planning, but Daniel didn't take them back. "Move in with us. With me and Mia. I know it's fast. I know we've only been together for 4 months, but it feels right. You're already part of our lives. Why not make it official?" "Daniel, that's huge. Have you thought about this? Really thought about it?" "I think about it constantly. I think about coming home to you, about Mia having you there for homework help and bedtime stories, about building something permanent instead of scheduling our lives around when we can see each other." Elena was quiet, and Daniel felt panic start to creep in. Maybe he'd pushed too hard, too fast. Maybe Elena wasn't ready for this level of commitment. "I need time," Elena said finally, "to think about it, to make sure it's the right move, not just for us, but for Mia. She's been through so much. I don't want to disrupt her life if I'm not absolutely certain I'm staying." "Are you certain?" "About my feelings for you, completely. About moving in after 4 months? I need to think." Elena cupped his face in her hands. "Give me a week. Let me process this properly. Can you do that?" "Of course. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have ambushed you." "You didn't ambush me. You were honest. That's what I love about you." Elena kissed him softly. 1 week. Then we'll talk, really talk, about logistics and timelines and what this would mean for all of us." Daniel watched her drive away, hope and anxiety warring in his chest. He'd put himself out there, asked for what he wanted. Now all he could do was wait. The week crawled by with agonizing slowness. Daniel and Elena still saw each other, still texted throughout the day, but there was a new weight to their conversations, an awareness that they were standing on the edge of something significant. On New Year's Eve, exactly 1 week after Daniel's proposal, Elena came over after Mia was asleep. She looked nervous, clutching a folder Daniel recognized as the kind she used for client presentations. "Did you make a PowerPoint about moving in?" he asked, trying to lighten the mood. "I made lists, pro and con lists, logistics lists, questions I need answered lists." Elena set the folder on the kitchen table. "I'm a consultant. This is how I process major life decisions." "Okay, let's see the lists." For the next 2 hours, they went through everything. Financial arrangements, space considerations, how to explain the change to Mia, what it would mean for Elena's independence, how to handle disagreements, what would happen if things didn't work out. "I need my own space," Elena said. "I can't be absorbed into your life completely. I need a room that's mine, an office, a studio, something. The second bedroom, Mia barely uses it. It's yours. And I need to keep some separation between my work life and home life. I can't be on call for Mia duty 24/7. I love her, but I'm not trying to be her mother. I would never ask you to be. You're Elena. That's enough." They worked through every concern, every potential conflict, until the folder was covered in notes and the clock showed it was nearly midnight. "So?" Daniel asked. "What's the verdict?" Elena looked at him, and Daniel saw the moment she made her decision. The shift from analysis to certainty. "Yes," she said. "I'll move in, but we do this carefully, slowly. We talk to Mia together. We set clear boundaries. We give ourselves permission to adjust if something isn't working. Yes to all of that." And Daniel, if this doesn't work, if we try and it's too much too fast, we don't just drift apart. We talk about it, honestly, before anyone gets hurt. Agreed. Outside, fireworks started going off as Columbus celebrated the new year. Daniel pulled Elena close, kissed her as the city exploded with light and sound. "Happy New Year," he said against her lips. "Happy New Year. Happy new chapter." The best chapter. They told Mia the next morning over breakfast. Daniel had been prepared for questions, concerns, maybe even resistance. What he got was pure 7-year-old pragmatism. "Does this mean Elena gets to have dinners with us every night?" "Most nights, yes," Elena said. "And she'll be here for homework help?" "If you want me to be." "Cool." Mia took a bite of pancake. "Can we paint my room purple now? Dad's been saying we can paint it for like a year." Daniel laughed, feeling the tension drain from his shoulders. "Yes, we can paint your room purple." "Awesome. When's Elena moving her stuff?" "In a few weeks. We need to get the second bedroom ready first." "I can help." Mia turned to Elena. "I'm really good at organizing. Dad says I get it from my mom, but I think I just like things to make sense." "I like things to make sense too," Elena said. "I think we'll work well together." Over the next 3 weeks, Elena gradually integrated into their lives with the same careful intentionality she brought to everything. She moved her things in boxes, 1 carload at a time. She and Mia painted the second bedroom a soft gray that Elena called sophisticated and Mia called boring but okay. She established routines that complemented rather than competed with Daniel's existing schedule. The first real test came 3 weeks after she moved in, when Daniel had to travel for work, an unavoidable conference in Chicago that meant being gone for 3 days. He'd arranged backup care with his sister, but Elena had quietly suggested she could handle it. "Are you sure?" Daniel had asked. 3 days alone with a 7-year-old is intense." "I'm sure. We'll be fine." They were more than fine. When Daniel came home, exhausted and ready to collapse, he found Elena and Mia building an elaborate Lego city on the living room floor, laughing about some inside joke involving penguins and architecture. "Dad!" Mia jumped up. "Elena taught me about load-bearing walls." "Did she now?" "She's very educational." Elena stood, kissed him hello like this was the most natural thing in the world. "How was Chicago?" "Boring. This is better." That night, after Mia was asleep and they were lying in bed, Elena said, "I think I'm going to be okay at this." The domestic partnership thing. "I was worried I'd be terrible, but it feels right." "You're more than okay. You're perfect." "I'm not perfect. I forgot to check Mia's homework folder and she had a permission slip due, and I let her stay up 30 minutes past bedtime 2 nights in a row." "So you're human. Good to know." Elena laughed, curled into him. "I love this. Us. This life we're building." "Me too." But even as he said it, Daniel felt a small knot of anxiety. Things were going well, almost too well. And in his experience, when life felt this good, something usually came along to complicate it. The complication arrived in mid-February in the form of a job offer. Elena came home from work looking shell-shocked, carrying a folder that Daniel had learned meant serious news. "I need to tell you something," she said. They sat at the kitchen table and Elena explained. A major consulting firm in Boston had been courting her for months. She'd been politely declining, but they'd come back with an offer that was hard to ignore. Significant pay increase, partnership track, prestigious clients. "It's an incredible opportunity," Elena said. "The kind of career move I would have killed for 5 years ago." Daniel felt his stomach drop. Boston. Boston. That's across the country. "I know." They sat in silence, the weight of the decision settling over them like snow. "What do you want to do?" Daniel asked finally. "I don't know. 6 months ago, I would have said yes immediately, but now—" Elena gestured around the apartment at the life they'd built. "Now I have this, us, Mia, a relationship that feels more real than anything I've had in years. How do I walk away from that?" "But how do you walk away from your career? Elena, this is huge. This is everything you've worked for." "I know." She looked at him, eyes bright with unshed tears. "Tell me what to do, Daniel, because I can't see clearly. All I can see is that either choice means losing something important. Daniel wanted to tell her to stay, wanted to make promises, offer compromises, convince her that their relationship was worth more than any career opportunity, but he also knew that wasn't fair, that Elena had sacrificed enough in her life, made enough choices based on other people's needs. "I can't tell you what to do," he said quietly. "This has to be your decision. But I can tell you that whatever you choose, I'll support it, even if it means figuring out long distance, even if it means ending things. I won't be the person who holds you back." Elena started crying, and Daniel held her while she processed everything she was feeling, the opportunity, the fear, the impossible choice between love and ambition. "I need time," she said finally. "They want an answer in 2 weeks. Can we just not talk about it for a few days? Let me sit with it?" "Whatever you need." But over the next week, the unspoken tension hung between them. Elena was distracted, distant. Daniel tried to give her space while also feeling the relationship slip through his fingers. Mia noticed something was wrong, asking if Elena was mad at them. "She's not mad," Daniel assured her. "She's just thinking about some big work stuff." "Is she leaving?" The question hit him like a punch. "I don't know, sweetheart. Maybe." "Because of us?" "No. Because she got offered an amazing job in another city. It has nothing to do with you." Mia nodded, but Daniel saw the fear in her eyes. Another adult potentially leaving. Another loss to process. 10 days after the offer, Elena asked Daniel to meet her for coffee. The same place where they'd had their second date, where they'd first admitted they were falling for each other. Daniel's heart was racing as he walked in. Elena was already there, looking tired but resolved, like someone who'd made a difficult decision and was ready to live with it. "I'm not taking the job," she said as soon as he sat down. Daniel felt relief and concern war in his chest. "Elena, let me finish. I'm not taking it because I don't want it badly enough to leave what I have here. Not because of you, not because of Mia, but because somewhere in the last 6 months, I built a life I actually like. A life that feels right. And no amount of money or prestige is worth walking away from that." "Are you sure?" "Because I meant what I said. I won't hold you back." "I know. That's partly why I'm staying." Elena took his hand. "The old me would have taken that job without hesitation, but I'm not that person anymore. I'm someone who values peace over achievement, who wants a partner and a family more than a corner office. That's growth, not sacrifice." "What if you regret it? What if I don't?" Elena smiled, tired but genuine. "Daniel, I spent my 20s and 30s chasing career goals. Let me spend my 40s building something else, something better." Daniel pulled her close, feeling the knot in his chest finally release. "I love you. So much." "I love you too, even though you make my life impossibly complicated." "Right back at you." They sat there for a long time, holding hands across the table, both understanding that they'd just weathered their first real test. And they'd come through it together, stronger for having faced it honestly. When they got home, Mia was waiting, her face anxious. "Are you staying?" she asked Elena directly. "I'm staying." "Good." Mia hugged Elena fiercely. "I don't want you to leave." "I don't want to leave either, kiddo." Daniel watched them, his girlfriend and his daughter, and felt something settle deep in his bones. This was his family. Unconventional, cobbled together from broken pieces, but his. Real and whole and worth everything. Spring arrived with unexpected warmth and the kind of certainty that only comes after surviving hard seasons together. Elena had been living with them for 4 months now, and the apartment had transformed in subtle ways that made Daniel's chest tight with contentment. Her books on the shelves next to his, her coffee mug in the cabinet, the blue one she always used. The way Mia's school art projects now included 3 stick figures instead of 2. Small changes that added up to something profound. It was on a Tuesday evening in late March, while helping Mia with a science project about planetary orbits, that Elena said something that made Daniel's world tilt. "You know what's funny?" Elena was cutting out a circle for Jupiter while Mia argued about whether Pluto deserved planet status. 6 months ago, if someone had told me I'd be living with a single dad and helping his daughter build a solar system model, I would have laughed. Now I can't imagine being anywhere else. Mia looked up from her Mars construction. Do you wish you had your own kids, like babies? The question hung in the air, innocent and devastating. Daniel froze, scissors halfway through Saturn's rings, waiting for Elena's answer. Elena set down her work, gave Mia her full attention. I used to think I did, when I was younger, but I've learned that family doesn't have to look one specific way. I don't need to have given birth to someone to care about them deeply. So you care about me? Deeply? Very deeply. You're one of my favorite people in the entire world. Mia considered this with her usual seriousness. Good, because you're one of mine too. Top 5, easy. Only top 5? Elena pretended to be offended. Well, Dad's number 1. Then you, then Mrs. Peterson, my teacher, then my friend Maya, then my stuffed elephant, Mr. Trunk. Mia counted on her fingers. That's 5. I'm honored to be ranked above Mr. Trunk. You should be. He's been with me since I was 3. They went back to building planets, but Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had just happened. Elena had chosen them, explicitly, not just stayed because leaving was hard, but actively chosen this life over the alternative. That night, after Mia was asleep and they were getting ready for bed, Daniel brought it up. What you said earlier, about family not having to look one specific way. I meant it. Elena was brushing her hair, meeting his eyes in the mirror. I know I'm not Mia's mom. I'll never try to be. But I can be someone who shows up, someone consistent, someone who loves her. You already are all those things. I know, but I wanted to say it out loud. Make it official. Elena turned to face him. Daniel, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. Always. Do you ever worry about the age thing? Now that we're really living together, building a life, do you ever think about the fact that I'll be 50 when you're 41? 60 when you're 51? Daniel sat on the edge of the bed, pulled her down beside him. Honestly? Sometimes. Not because I care about the numbers, but because I think about you facing things before I do, getting older first. And I hate that. I hate that time works that way. But does it bother you, the reality of it? What bothers me is the idea of wasting time worrying about something I can't change. Elena, you could be 25 or 65 and I'd still want to be with you. It's not about your age, it's about who you are. He took her hand. Why are you asking? Elena was quiet for a moment. Because I had lunch with an old friend today, someone from my college days who I haven't seen in years, and she made a comment about me playing house with someone younger. Said I was trying to recapture my youth or something equally ridiculous. That's bullshit. I know it's bullshit, but it got in my head. Elena's voice was smaller now, vulnerable. What if she's right? What if I'm being selfish? You should be with someone who... Stop. Daniel cupped her face in his hands. Listen to me. You're not being selfish. You're not trying to recapture anything. You're being yourself, living your life, with someone who chose you just as much as you chose them. Anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me. Elena's eyes filled with tears. I'm 43 years old, and I'm crying about what some woman I barely know thinks of my relationship. This is ridiculous. It's not ridiculous. It's human. People judge. It hurts. But their judgment doesn't change what we have. Promise me something. Anything. If you ever start feeling like the age gap is a problem, you'll tell me. You won't just quietly resent me for being older. I promise. If you promise the same thing about Mia, if you ever feel overwhelmed by the instant family situation, you tell me. Deal. They held each other in the quiet darkness of their bedroom, both processing their individual insecurities and finding comfort in shared honesty. Outside, Columbus settled into spring night sounds, distant traffic, neighborhood dogs, the soft rush of wind through new leaves. Daniel? Elena's voice was muffled against his shoulder. Yeah? I'm really happy, like genuinely, deeply happy. And that scares me because I keep waiting for it to fall apart. Me too. But maybe that's okay. Maybe being scared means we know what we have is worth protecting. When did you get so wise? I've been faking it very convincingly. Elena laughed, and the tension broke, and they fell asleep tangled together with the easy comfort of people who'd learned to weather storms as a team. The question Daniel had been avoiding came up during a rare quiet Saturday morning in April. Mia was at a birthday party, giving Daniel and Elena a few hours alone, a luxury they'd learned not to take for granted. They were drinking coffee on the small balcony, watching their neighborhood wake up, when Elena said, "I've been thinking about something." Dangerous opener. "I'm serious." Elena set down her mug. "We've been together for almost 8 months, living together for 5, and I think it's time we talked about the future. Real future. Not just next week or next month." Daniel felt his heart rate pick up. "Okay, what about the future? Where is this going? Us? What do you want this to become?" It was the kind of direct question that Elena specialized in, the kind that required an equally direct answer. Daniel took a breath, decided that if there was ever a time to be completely honest, this was it. "I want to marry you." Elena stared at him. "What?" "I want to marry you. I've wanted to marry you since about month 3, but I was trying to be patient and not rush things and do everything the right way. But you asked where this is going, and that's where I want it to go. Marriage, partnership, the whole thing." "Daniel, we haven't even talked about this." "I know. That's why I'm talking about it now." He turned to face her fully. "I love you. Mia loves you. You've become essential to both of our lives. I want to make that official. I want you to have the security of knowing this isn't temporary, that I'm not going to wake up one day and decide this was a phase." "I never thought it was a phase." "Didn't you? At least a little?" "Elena, you've spent months waiting for the other shoe to drop. For me to realize the age gap is too much, or the instant family thing is too complicated, or whatever. But it's not dropping. This is it. This is what I want. You're what I want." Elena's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "You're proposing. On our balcony, in your pajamas." "I'm not proposing. Not officially. I don't have a ring. I haven't planned some elaborate thing. I'm just telling you what I want, and asking what you want." "I want..." Elena stopped, started again. "I want to believe this is real, that we're not going to implode, that I can have this kind of happiness without paying for it later." "Why do you think you have to pay for happiness?" "Because that's how it's always worked before. My marriage failed. My career has been one compromise after another. Every time I've wanted something badly, it's fallen apart." Elena wiped her eyes. "I'm terrified that if I say yes to this, to marriage, to forever, the universe will take it away." Daniel took her hands. "The universe doesn't work that way. Bad things happen, yes, but not because we dared to be happy, not because we asked for what we wanted. You don't know that." "You're right, I don't. But I know that I'd rather risk heartbreak with you than play it safe with anyone else. And I think you feel the same way, or you wouldn't be living here. You wouldn't have turned down that job in Boston. You wouldn't have integrated yourself into Mia's life so completely." Elena was crying openly now, the kind of tears that came from years of protecting yourself finally letting go. "I do want to marry you. I want all of it. But Daniel, I need time. Not because I'm unsure, but because I need to let myself believe it's real. Can you give me that? As much time as you need. Even if it takes months? Even if it takes years. Elena, I'm not going anywhere. This isn't a limited time offer. This is me telling you that when you're ready, I'll be here." They sat in silence for a long moment, holding hands, both processing the weight of what had just been said. Then Elena smiled through her tears. "You know what's funny? Most women dream about elaborate proposals, fancy restaurants, surprise flash mobs. And here I am, crying on a balcony because my boyfriend told me he wants to marry me someday, in the most straightforward way possible. Is that a complaint? It's perfect. You're perfect. This is perfect." Elena kissed him, tasting like coffee and salt. "Thank you for being patient with me. Thank you for being honest about what you need." They spent the rest of the morning talking about what marriage would look like for them. Not the wedding itself, but the life they'd build. Combined finances or separate? Legal adoption for Mia or just remaining a constant presence? What to do about Elena's small apartment that she'd been keeping as a safety net, unused but still hers? "I should probably let it go," Elena said. "The apartment. I'm paying for security I don't need. Only if you're ready. There's no rush. I think I am. Ready. Elena paused. When I moved in here, I kept it as an escape route, proof that I could leave if things got bad. But things aren't bad. They're good. Really good. And keeping that apartment feels like I'm hedging my bets instead of committing fully. So we give notice this month. We give notice this month. It was such a small thing, giving up an apartment she never used. But Daniel understood what it represented. Elena choosing to trust, to commit, to believe in their future together. It was as significant as any ring or proposal. When Mia came home from the birthday party, high on sugar and excitement, she immediately sensed something had shifted. "Why are you guys being weird?" she asked, eyeing them suspiciously. "We're not being weird," Daniel said. "You are. You're doing that thing where you smile at each other like you have a secret." Elena and Daniel exchanged a glance. They'd agreed not to say anything to Mia about marriage until it was official, but Mia was too perceptive to hide things from completely. "We're just happy," Elena said. "Is that okay? I guess." Mia dumped her party favor bag on the table. "Can we go to the park? Maya's mom said there are baby ducks at the pond." "Absolutely. Let me grab my shoes." As Mia ran to get her jacket, Elena caught Daniel's arm. "This is good, right? Us. All of this. This is the best thing that's ever happened to me. Besides Mia." Good answer. They spent the afternoon at the park, watching Mia feed ducks with the bread they'd brought, and Daniel felt that same sense of rightness he'd been feeling more and more lately. This was his life. This woman, this child, this simple Saturday afternoon. Not exciting, not dramatic, just real and good and enough. The conversation about marriage stayed quietly between them for the next few weeks while Elena processed everything at her own pace. Daniel watched her carefully, looking for signs of panic or regret, but instead saw something else. A gradual softening, a letting go of the fear that had been driving so many of her decisions. It was in early May, on a Thursday evening after a particularly long day at work, that Elena brought it up again. They were making dinner together, one of those comfortable domestic routines they'd fallen into. Mia was at the table doing homework, Daniel was chopping vegetables, and Elena was stirring sauce when she said, "I've been thinking about what you said. About marriage." Daniel's knife stilled. Mia looked up from her math worksheet. "And?" Daniel tried to keep his voice casual. "And I think I'm ready to say yes. Officially." Elena turned to look at him, her expression clear and certain. "If the offer still stands." "The offer definitely still stands." Mia dropped her pencil. "Wait, are you guys getting married?" Elena and Daniel both turned to her, and Daniel saw the mixture of hope and fear on his daughter's face. She wanted this, but she was also scared of what it might mean. "We're talking about it," Daniel said carefully. "How would you feel about that?" Mia bit her lip, thinking hard. "Would Elena be my mom?" "No," Elena said immediately. "You have a mom. I would be your stepmom, which is different. I wouldn't replace your mother, but I'd be another adult in your life who loves you and helps take care of you, if that's okay with you." "Would you leave? Like Mom did?" The question hit them both hard. Elena walked over to the table, knelt down so she was eye level with Mia. "I can't promise that nothing bad will ever happen. Life is unpredictable, but I can promise that I won't choose to leave. I'm here because I want to be here, because I love you and your dad. That's not going to change." "Promise?" "I promise." Mia studied Elena's face with the intensity she brought to all important decisions. Then she nodded. "Okay, you can marry my dad, but I get to help plan the wedding." Elena laughed, surprised and relieved. "Deal. And I want to wear purple, and there has to be cake." "Good cake, not the weird healthy kind." "All reasonable demands," Daniel said, feeling his throat tight with emotion. "Anything else? Can Mr. Trunk be in the wedding party?" "Your stuffed elephant?" "He's been with me through everything. He deserves recognition." Elena looked at Daniel, her eyes bright with amusement and affection. "I think we can arrange that." Later that night, after Mia was asleep and they were lying in bed, Elena said, "That went better than I expected. She's a remarkable kid." She is, and I don't take lightly what she's giving us. Her blessing, her trust, that's huge. I know. Daniel pulled her closer. So we're really doing this? Getting married? We're really doing this, though I still don't have a ring. Do you want one? Elena considered this. Yes, but nothing huge or showy, something simple, something that feels like us. I can work with that. And Daniel? I don't want a long engagement. I'm 43. I've already had one big traditional wedding. This time I want small, intimate, just the people who matter. How small are we talking? City Hall small, or maybe your sister's backyard with 20 people. Something that feels real, not performative. Daniel kissed her forehead. Whatever you want. I just want you to be my wife. Your wife? That sounds strange. Good strange, but strange. You'll get used to it. Will I? Elena Harper Moore, Elena Moore Harper? We have time to figure out the logistics. Do we? Because I kind of want to do this soon, like this summer soon. Daniel pulled back to look at her. Really? Really, I don't want to wait. I don't want to second guess. I want to marry you while I'm still certain, before my brain has time to invent reasons to be scared. Your brain does do that a lot. It's a survival mechanism gone haywire. Elena smiled. So what do you think? Small wedding this summer before Mia goes back to school? I think that sounds perfect. They started planning the next day, which mostly involved Elena making lists and Daniel trying to keep up. They decided on his sister's backyard, a Saturday in late July with just immediate family and their closest friends. No formal invitations, no registry, just a simple celebration of commitment. The hardest part was telling Sarah. Daniel called her on a Sunday afternoon while Mia was at Elena's parents' house meeting them for the first time. He'd been putting it off, but Elena had pointed out that Mia deserved to have her mother know before the wedding happened. Danny, this is a surprise. Is everything okay? Everything's fine. Great, actually. I'm calling to tell you something. I'm getting married to Elena, the woman I told you about at Christmas. There was a long pause. Oh, wow. That's fast, isn't it? We've been together almost a year, living together for 6 months. It feels right. And Mia? How does she feel about this? She's happy. She likes Elena. They get along really well. Another pause. I'm glad. I am. I want you to be happy, Danny. Both of you. Sarah's voice caught slightly. I know I haven't been the best mother or the best ex-wife, but I do want good things for our daughter. I know you do. When's the wedding? July 20th. It's going to be small, family only. But you're welcome to come if you want, for Mia's sake. I thank you. I'd like that. I'll be there. After they hung up, Daniel sat with his phone for a long moment, processing the conversation. Sarah had sounded genuinely happy for them, which was more than he'd expected. Maybe she was growing too. Maybe everyone was just doing their best to navigate complicated situations. The weeks before the wedding passed in a blur of preparations and normal life. Elena insisted they keep things low-key, which meant no expensive dress shopping or catering dramas. She bought a simple cream-colored dress from a boutique downtown, knee-length and elegant. Daniel wore his best suit. Mia got her purple dress and a flower crown she'd helped Elena make. Elena's parents flew in from Arizona, cautiously supportive of their daughter's second marriage to a man 9 years younger with a child. Daniel's family was more enthusiastically chaotic, his sister crying at every planning discussion, and his father grudgingly admitting that Elena seemed solid. The night before the wedding, Daniel couldn't sleep. He lay in bed next to Elena, watching her breathe in the darkness, feeling the enormity of what they were about to do. You're thinking too loud, Elena murmured without opening her eyes. Sorry. What are you thinking about? Tomorrow. Us. How different my life looks than I thought it would. Daniel traced patterns on her shoulder. A year ago, I was just a single dad going through the motions. Now I'm getting married to someone who makes me believe in second chances. Elena opened her eyes, turned to face him. Having doubts? Not even a little. You? Terrified. But in a good way. Like standing on the edge of something high and knowing the jump will be worth it. Very poetic for someone who claims not to be romantic. I'm not romantic. I'm practical. But practical people can still recognize when something is worth the risk. Elena kissed him softly. Thank you for being patient with me, for waiting until I was ready. Thank you for being ready. They fell asleep holding each other, and Daniel dreamed of coffee machines and age gaps and broken pieces becoming whole. The wedding day arrived with perfect summer weather and a backyard full of people who actually mattered. Daniel stood under his sister's maple tree, wearing his best suit and feeling more nervous than he'd been in years. His sister was officiating, having gotten ordained online specifically for this occasion. Mia stood beside him in her purple dress, clutching Mr. Trunk, and taking her role as ring bearer very seriously. Then Elena appeared at the back of the yard, walking slowly toward him with her father at her side, and Daniel forgot to breathe. She looked beautiful. Not in the dramatic take-your-breath-away sense, but in the quiet, certain way that had made him fall for her in the first place. Calm, confident, choosing this moment deliberately. When she reached him, her father kissed her cheek and stepped back. Elena took Daniel's hands, and they stood there facing each other while his sister read the ceremony they'd written together. We're here today, his sister began, to celebrate Daniel and Elena choosing each other. Not because it was easy, not because it made sense on paper, but because they recognized something real and decided it was worth fighting for. Daniel barely heard the rest of the ceremony. He was too focused on Elena's face, the way she was looking at him like he was the only person in the world, the slight tremor in her hands that told him she was nervous too. When it came time for vows, Daniel went first. Elena, when I met you, I wasn't looking for love. I was looking for stability, routine, a life that made sense. And then you fixed a coffee machine and everything changed. He took a breath, steadied himself. You've taught me that love doesn't have to be complicated, that two people can choose each other honestly and build something real. You've been patient with my chaos, kind to my daughter, and brave enough to believe in us when it would have been easier to walk away. I promise to show up, to be honest, to build a life with you that values peace over drama and substance over show. I love you. Not despite our differences, but because of them. Elena was crying openly now, not bothering to wipe her eyes. When it was her turn, her voice shook but stayed strong. Daniel, I spent most of my adult life trying to fit into boxes that weren't meant for me. Traditional timelines, conventional expectations, and it left me lonely and lost. Then I met you, and you made me believe that there's no wrong way to build a family. No wrong age to find love. No wrong time to start over. She squeezed his hands. You and Mia have given me something I didn't know I needed. A home that feels real. A relationship built on honesty instead of performance. A chance to be myself without apologizing. I promise to love you fiercely. To respect your role as Mia's father. To build a partnership where we both have space to be who we are. I choose you. Today and every day after. Mia handed them the rings, whispering loudly enough for everyone to hear. Don't drop them. They're really small. Daniel and Elena exchanged rings, simple gold bands they'd picked out together. His sister pronounced them married. They kissed to applause and cheers from their small gathering of people who'd believed in them from the start. The reception was just as simple. Barbecue in the backyard, a cake from the local bakery that Mia had taste-tested 3 times, music from a playlist instead of a DJ. No formal dances, no speeches, just people talking and laughing and celebrating something genuine. Sarah showed up halfway through, looking uncertain, but genuinely happy. She hugged Mia, congratulated Daniel and Elena, and spent an hour at the party before leaving quietly. It was more than Daniel had expected, and he appreciated the effort. As the sun started to set and guests began filtering home, Daniel found himself standing with Elena and Mia, watching fireflies emerge in the gathering darkness. How are you feeling, Mrs. Harper? He asked Elena. It's still more Harper, thank you very much. And I'm feeling terrified and certain in equal measure. That seems about right. Mia tugged on Daniel's sleeve. Are we a real family now? Daniel and Elena both looked at her, and Elena said, We've been a real family for months, sweetheart. This just makes it official. Good. Mia went back to watching fireflies. I like being official. That night, after the party cleanup and the goodbyes and the return to their apartment, Daniel lay in bed next to his wife and felt something he'd been missing for years finally click into place. We did it, he said. We did it, Elena agreed. Now comes the hard part. Which part? Actually being married, making it work every day. I think we've been practicing for months. True. Elena turned to face him. I love you, husband. I love you too, wife. They fell asleep tangled together, married and certain and ready for whatever came next. Marriage, Daniel discovered, was both easier and harder than he'd expected. Easier because nothing fundamental changed. They were still the same people, still living in the same apartment, still navigating the same daily rhythms of work and parenting and stolen moments of connection. But harder because making it official somehow raised the stakes. Every disagreement felt more significant. Every decision required more consideration. The safety net of "we're just dating" was gone, replaced by the weight of "this is forever." Their first real fight as a married couple happened 6 weeks after the wedding, on a Sunday morning in September. Daniel had promised to take Mia school shopping, but he'd also agreed to help his sister move furniture without telling Elena. When Elena found out, standing in the kitchen with Mia's list of school supplies, her expression went cold in a way Daniel had never seen. "You double-booked," she said flatly. "I forgot about the shopping. I'm sorry. We can go this afternoon. You told Mia you'd take her this morning. She's been looking forward to it all week. Then come with us. We'll make it work." "That's not the point, Daniel." Elena's voice was tight with frustration. "The point is you made a commitment to your daughter and you're bailing because you didn't bother to check your calendar. That's exactly the kind of thing that makes kids feel unimportant." "I'm not bailing. I'm rescheduling. There's a difference." "Is there? Because from where I'm standing, you're teaching Mia that other people's needs come before hers." The argument escalated from there, both of them saying things that weren't quite fair, until Mia appeared in her pajamas looking worried. "Are you fighting because of me?" The question stopped them both cold. Daniel looked at his daughter's anxious face and felt shame wash over him. "No, sweetheart," Elena said before Daniel could respond. "We're fighting because adults sometimes disagree about priorities. But it's not your fault, not even a little bit." "Are you getting divorced?" "What? No." Daniel knelt down to Mia's level. "Married people fight sometimes. It doesn't mean they're getting divorced. It means they're working through something. Mom and you used to fight a lot. Then you got divorced." The observation hung in the air, painful and accurate. Daniel met Elena's eyes over Mia's head and saw his own concern reflected back. "Your mom and I fought because we didn't know how to talk to each other," Daniel said carefully. "Elena and I are fighting because we care about doing right by you. That's different." Mia didn't look convinced, but she nodded and went back to her room. The moment she was gone, Daniel turned to Elena. "I'm sorry. You're right. I screwed up. I should have checked before committing to my sister. And I'm sorry for coming at you so hard. Elena sat down at the kitchen table, suddenly looking exhausted. "I don't want to be the evil stepmother, but I also don't want to watch you make parenting mistakes without saying something. I don't know where that line is yet." "Neither do I." Daniel sat beside her. "We're figuring this out as we go, both of us. And that means we're going to mess up sometimes. I hate messing up. I know. But we're married now. That means we mess up together and fix it together." He took her hand. "I'll call my sister. Cancel the furniture thing. Mia and I will go shopping. You can come if you want, or you can have a quiet morning to yourself." "I'll come. Someone needs to make sure you don't let her buy those light-up sneakers she's been obsessing over. They're very practical. They're hideous." "Agreed. But she's 8. Hideous is kind of her aesthetic right now." Elena laughed despite herself, and the tension broke. They spent the rest of the morning shopping with Mia, who did indeed lobby hard for the light-up sneakers and settled for a compromise of regular sneakers in purple. On the drive home, Mia announced that she was glad they'd fought, because it meant they cared about her. "That's a very mature perspective," Elena said. "I read it in a book about feelings." Mia paused. "But I still don't like it when you fight. It makes my stomach feel weird." "We'll try to fight less," Daniel promised. "And when we do fight, we'll make sure you know it's not about you, and we're working through it." "Okay, can we get ice cream? It's 10:30 in the morning." "Time is a social construct." Elena choked on a laugh. "Where did you hear that?" "You." You said it last week when Dad said it was too early for wine. Fair point. Ice cream it is. They learned slowly to navigate the complications of blended family life. Elena set boundaries about her role, making it clear she wasn't trying to parent Mia, but would support Daniel's decisions. Daniel learned to check with Elena before making plans, respecting that they were a team now. Mia learned that having another adult around meant more stability, not less, and gradually stopped waiting for Elena to disappear. The real test came in October when Sarah called with news that changed everything. Daniel was at work when his phone rang, Sarah's name flashing on the screen. They'd settled into a better rhythm since the wedding, with Sarah calling Mia every week and even visiting for a weekend in August. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. "Danny, I need to tell you something." Sarah's voice was different, serious in a way that made Daniel's stomach drop. "I'm moving back to Columbus." Daniel nearly dropped his phone. "What?" "I got offered a position here, director level. I've been interviewing for months and they finally came through with an offer I couldn't refuse." Sarah spoke quickly, like she'd rehearsed this. "I want to be closer to Mia. I want to be a real mother, not just a voice on the phone. I know I don't deserve another chance, but I'm asking for one anyway." "Sarah, you can't just... When is this happening?" "I'm flying out next week to look at apartments. I'd start in November. I want to see Mia regularly, maybe even work toward shared custody eventually, if you're open to it." Daniel felt his carefully constructed world tilt sideways. "I need to process this, and talk to Elena, and figure out what this means for Mia." "I understand. But Danny?" "I'm serious this time. I'm not running away again. I'm coming home." After they hung up, Daniel sat at his desk staring at nothing until his phone buzzed with a text from Elena. "Coffee break? I need a sanity check on a client." He met her in their usual spot, and the moment Elena saw his face, she knew something was wrong. "What happened?" Daniel told her everything: Sarah's job offer, the move back to Columbus, the possibility of shared custody. Elena listened without interrupting, her expression carefully neutral. "How do you feel about it?" she asked when he finished. "Terrified. Angry. Also hopeful, which makes me feel guilty for being angry." Daniel ran his hands through his hair. "Mia deserves to have her mother in her life. But Sarah's track record is terrible. What if she promises consistency and then disappears again? What if Mia gets hurt? What if she doesn't? What if Sarah's actually changed? Do people really change like that?" Elena was quiet for a moment. "I did. I was someone who needed complete control over my life, who couldn't imagine compromising or sharing space or being vulnerable. And then I met you and Mia, and I chose to become someone different. Not completely different, but different enough. That's not the same thing, isn't it?" Sarah left because she couldn't handle the responsibility. Maybe she spent 2 years learning that she can. Maybe she deserves the chance to prove it. Elena took his hand. "I'm not saying trust her blindly. I'm saying give her the opportunity to show you who she is now, for Mia's sake. And if she breaks Mia's heart again, then we'll be there to pick up the pieces. Together, like we always are." That night, they sat down with Mia and explained that her mother was moving back to Columbus. Mia's reaction was complicated, layers of emotion playing across her face: excitement, confusion, worry, hope. "Does this mean she's going to live with us?" "No," Daniel said firmly. "Your mom will have her own apartment, but she wants to see you more often, maybe spend weekends with you sometimes. How do you feel about that?" "I don't know." Mia picked at the edge of her placemat. "What if she leaves again?" Elena spoke up, her voice gentle. "That's a real worry, sweetheart. Your mom has left before and that hurt, but people can change. And maybe she's ready to show up consistently this time. The only way to know is to give her a chance." "But what if I don't want to? What if I like things how they are now?" "That's okay too," Daniel said. "We don't have to decide everything tonight. We'll take this slow, see how it goes. And if at any point you're uncomfortable, you tell us. Deal?" "Deal." Sarah moved back to Columbus in mid-November, renting a 2-bedroom apartment 15 minutes from Daniel and Elena's place. The first few visits were awkward, supervised afternoons at parks or museums where Sarah tried too hard, and Mia maintained careful distance. But slowly, something shifted. Sarah showed up on time. She remembered details Mia mentioned. She started building the consistency she'd promised. By Christmas, they'd settled into a routine where Mia spent every other weekend with Sarah. It wasn't perfect. There were still moments where Sarah's old patterns emerged, canceled plans, forgotten promises, but she always acknowledged her mistakes and worked to fix them. It was more than she'd done before. The strange part was how it affected Daniel and Elena's marriage. Having Sarah back in their lives as a co-parent rather than an absent presence changed the dynamics in ways Daniel hadn't anticipated. They had to communicate more, navigate schedules, present a united front when Sarah pushed boundaries. It forced them to work as a team in new ways. "I never thought I'd be coordinating pickups with my husband's ex-wife," Elena said one evening while reviewing the shared custody calendar they'd created. "Is it weird?" "It's weird, but not bad weird, just different." Elena made a note about Mia's dentist appointment. "How are you handling it, having Sarah back?" "Better than I expected. Worse than I'd like." Daniel closed his laptop, gave Elena his full attention. "I think I'm still waiting for her to revert to old patterns. Disappear again, but she hasn't. And Mia's actually happier having both parents around." "That's good, right?" "It's good. It's just, I had everything figured out. Our little family unit, the routines, and now everything's more complicated." Elena smiled. "Welcome to my world. I've been navigating complications since I met you. And you're still here. Still here. Still wouldn't change it." They'd been married for 6 months when Elena first brought up the possibility of having another child. Not having one herself, she clarified quickly when Daniel's eyes went wide, but maybe fostering or adoption, something that would give Mia a sibling and let them expand their family without Elena going through pregnancy at 44. "I've been thinking about it for months," Elena said. They were in bed, that quiet space where their most honest conversations happened. "I know I said I was done with the kid chapter, but that was before Mia, before I understood what it felt like to love someone else's child as deeply as I love her. And I keep thinking, what if we could do that for another kid? One who needs stability?" Daniel processed this carefully. "You want to foster? Maybe. Or adopt an older child, someone Mia's age or older, someone who needs a family and wouldn't require us starting over with diapers and sleepless nights." Elena turned to face him. "But only if you want it too. This can't be just my thing. I never thought about more kids. Mia was always enough." "Is she still enough? Or is there room for more?" Daniel thought about their apartment, already feeling small with 3 people, about Mia's attachment issues, about his and Elena's work schedules, about all the practical reasons this was a terrible idea. Then he thought about the way Elena had integrated into their lives, the way love had expanded to include her without diminishing what he had with Mia. Maybe families worked that way. Maybe there was always room for one more. "Let's research it," he said finally. "Not commit to anything, just learn what fostering or adoption would actually look like. Then we decide together." "Together," Elena agreed. "I like the sound of that." They spent the next 3 months learning about foster care in Ohio, attending information sessions, talking to other foster families. The process was daunting: background checks, home studies, training sessions. But the more they learned, the more it felt right. Mia, when they finally told her, had opinions. "So I'd have a brother or sister?" "Possibly," Daniel said, "if we decide to do this and get matched with a child. But it wouldn't be like having a baby. It would be a kid who needs a temporary home until their family situation gets sorted out." "What if I don't like them?" "That's a real possibility," Elena said honestly. "Foster care is complicated, but we'd work through it together, and you'd always be part of the decision-making process. Can I think about it?" "Of course. Take all the time you need." Mia thought about it for 2 weeks, asking questions and reading books about foster care from the library. Then she announced at dinner one night that she was okay with it, but only if the kid wasn't super annoying and she got to keep her room to herself. "Fair terms," Daniel said, suppressing a smile. They submitted their application in March, completed their home study in April, and got approved as foster parents in May. Then came the waiting, weeks that turned into months with no placement, just occasional calls about children who weren't quite right for their situation. It was in late August, nearly a year after Elena had first brought up the idea, that they got the call about Marcus. He was 11, had been in 3 foster homes in 2 years, and needed a stable placement while his mother worked through rehab. The social worker described him as challenging but bright, which Daniel had learned was code for has trauma and trust issues. He needs consistency, the social worker said. Parents who won't give up when things get hard. Your file suggests you might be a good fit. Daniel and Elena talked for hours, weighing the decision. Marcus was older than they'd expected. His history was complicated. There were no guarantees about how long he'd stay or whether his mother would complete rehab successfully. But when Elena asked, "What would we want someone to do if it were Mia?" the answer was obvious. They said yes. Marcus arrived on a Thursday afternoon with everything he owned in 2 garbage bags and an expression that told Daniel he expected this placement to fail like all the others. He was small for 11, with dark eyes that missed nothing and a defensive posture that spoke of too many disappointments. "This is your room," Elena said, showing him the second bedroom they'd converted. "We can decorate it however you want, paint it, put up posters, whatever makes you comfortable." Marcus looked around the room like he was cataloging exit routes. "How long am I staying?" "We don't know yet," Daniel said honestly. "Depends on your mom's situation. Could be weeks, could be months. But while you're here, this is your home. We'll make sure you're safe and fed and get to school on time." "That's what they all say." "I know, and I know you've heard it before, but we mean it." Marcus shrugged, the universal gesture of kids who'd learned not to hope for too much. Mia appeared in the doorway, studying the new addition to their household with open curiosity. "I'm Mia. I'm 9. What's your name?" "Marcus." "Cool. Do you like Legos? Because I have approximately 1 million and I need help building a city." Something flickered in Marcus's eyes, interest maybe, or surprise at the casual acceptance. "I guess." "Great, come on." Just like that, Mia led Marcus to the living room and started showing him her Lego collection, chattering about her elaborate city plans and completely ignoring his defensive walls. Daniel watched them, then looked at Elena. "Well," he said quietly, "here we go." The first 2 weeks were hard. Marcus tested every boundary, pushed every button, seemed determined to prove he was too difficult to keep. He refused dinner, stayed up past bedtime, talked back, and generally made everyone's life challenging. But Daniel and Elena had expected this. The training had prepared them for the testing phase. What they hadn't expected was how Mia would handle it. She seemed completely unfazed by Marcus's behavior, treating his outbursts with the kind of calm acceptance usually reserved for natural disasters. When he knocked over her Lego tower in anger, she just started rebuilding. When he said her favorite show was stupid, she shrugged and said everyone was entitled to wrong opinions. When he tried to push her buttons, she refused to react. "How are you so good at this?" Elena asked her one evening after Marcus had stormed off to his room following a disagreement about homework. "I don't know. He's sad and angry and doesn't trust people. I get that. My mom left too. I was angry for a long time." Mia carefully added blocks to her tower. "But you and Dad stayed, and then you came, Elena. And you stayed too, so I know staying is possible. Marcus just hasn't learned it yet." Daniel felt his throat tighten with pride. His daughter, at 9 years old, had more emotional intelligence than most adults. Slowly, Marcus started to settle. The outbursts became less frequent. He started eating dinner with them. He accepted help with homework. He even laughed once, a surprise sound he quickly tried to hide, when Mia told a terrible joke about elephants. The breakthrough came 6 weeks into placement, on a Saturday morning when Daniel found Marcus sitting on the front steps looking devastated. "What's wrong?" Daniel sat beside him. "My mom missed her call yesterday. She was supposed to call, and she didn't." Marcus wiped his eyes roughly. "She's probably using again. That's what happened last time." Daniel didn't offer false reassurances. "That must be really scary, not knowing." "Everyone leaves eventually, or they mess up. It's just how it is." "Sometimes, yes, people mess up, people leave, but not always, and not forever." Daniel paused. "I know you don't believe me yet. You've been let down too many times. But Elena and I, we're here for as long as you need us. Whether that's another week or another year. That doesn't change based on what your mom does." Marcus was quiet for a long time. Then, so quietly, Daniel almost missed it. "My last foster dad said I was too much work. that I made his life harder. You do make life harder. You're prickly and defensive, and you push people away before they can leave you. That's a lot of work. Daniel kept his voice gentle. But here's the thing. You're worth the work. You're a smart, funny kid who's been dealt a terrible hand, and we're not giving up on you just because you make things difficult. Why not? Because that's what family does. They stick around through the hard stuff. Marcus didn't say anything else, but he leaned slightly against Daniel's shoulder, and that small gesture of trust felt more significant than any words could have been. That evening, Marcus asked if he could call them Mom and Dad. Elena handled it carefully. We're honored that you'd want to, but we're not trying to replace your mom. We're just trying to be stable adults in your life while she gets better. I know, but she's not here. You are. And Marcus struggled with the words. I need someone to call Mom and Dad, even if it's just for now. Then yes, Daniel said. You can call us whatever feels right. Even if I leave? Even if my mom gets better and I go back? Even then, you'll always be part of our family, no matter what happens next. The holidays that year were different. Instead of 3 of them, there were 4. Marcus was still tentative, still testing whether the stability would last. But he was there, participating, letting himself belong. Sarah handled the addition with surprising grace, bringing gifts for Marcus along with Mia and treating him with the same careful kindness she'd been showing her own daughter. It was strange, this expanded version of their family, Daniel, Elena, Mia, Marcus, and even Sarah on the periphery, all working together to create something functional. We're like a modern art piece, Elena said one evening while wrapping presents. Nothing matches, it doesn't make conventional sense, but somehow it works. You have a gift for metaphors. It's the consultant in me. Everything's a metaphor. Marcus's mother completed rehab in February and started working toward getting him back. The transition happened slowly, with the visits that gradually increased in length, until finally, in May, nearly a year after Marcus had arrived, his social worker called to say his mother had been approved for reunification. The news hit them all hard, even though they'd known it was coming. Marcus was torn between wanting to be with his mother and not wanting to leave the stability he'd found. Mia cried for an entire evening. Daniel and Elena tried to be supportive while privately grieving the loss. We knew this was temporary, Elena said, but her voice broke. Knowing doesn't make it easier. Marcus left on a Saturday morning, his belongings now in actual suitcases instead of garbage bags. He hugged each of them, tears streaming down his face. Thank you for not giving up on me, he told Daniel and Elena. Thank you for letting us love you, Elena replied. To Mia, he said, you're the best sister I ever had, even if we're not technically related. We're related now, in all the ways that matter. After he left, the apartment felt too quiet. They all moved through the next few weeks in a fog, processing the loss while trying to remember that this was actually a good outcome. Marcus was with his mother. He was safe. He was loved. But it still hurt. The pain started to ease when Marcus's mother called in June to ask if they'd be willing to maintain contact. She'd been in touch with the social worker and learned how much Marcus had grown while with them. She wanted him to have that stability, even from a distance. He talks about you constantly, she said. You and Mia and the Legos, and how you made him feel safe. I can't give him that right now. I'm trying, but I'm still learning. Would you be willing to let him visit sometimes? Stay in touch? They said yes immediately. Marcus started visiting 1 weekend a month, maintaining his connection to their family while building his relationship with his mother. It was messy and complicated and required coordinating schedules and managing emotions, but it worked. He brought his mother to meet them, a thin woman with tired eyes and a determination that Daniel recognized. Thank you, she said simply, for taking care of my son when I couldn't. He's a remarkable kid, Elena replied. You should be proud. I am, and I'm trying to be someone he can be proud of too. Life settled into a new rhythm. Mia started 5th grade. Marcus visited monthly and video called weekly. Sarah maintained her consistent presence, even starting to date someone she wanted Mia to meet. Daniel got promoted at work. Elena took on fewer clients, choosing quality of life over professional achievement. And then, on a quiet Tuesday evening in September, Elena made an announcement that changed everything again. They were doing dishes after dinner, Mia was in her room doing homework, and Elena suddenly said, "I need to tell you something." Daniel felt a familiar flutter of anxiety. "Okay." "I'm pregnant." The plate Daniel was holding slipped, crashed into the sink. He turned to stare at Elena, certain he'd misheard. "What?" "I'm pregnant. 8 weeks. I know we weren't trying. I know I said I was done with that chapter. I know I'm 44 and this is medically questionable and we should probably be terrified, but..." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "I'm happy. Terrified, but happy." Daniel pulled her into his arms, his mind racing through implications and logistics and the sheer impossibility of this. "How?" "The usual way, I assume. Though honestly, I'm as surprised as you are. I thought at my age the chances were basically zero." "Are you okay? Healthy? Have you seen a doctor?" "I saw my doctor yesterday. She says everything looks good so far, though it's considered high risk given my age. We'll need more monitoring, more tests, but for now, we're okay. We're having a baby. We're having a baby." They stood in the kitchen holding each other, processing the magnitude of this unexpected gift. Then Mia appeared in the doorway. "Why are you guys being weird again?" Daniel and Elena looked at each other, then at Mia. "How do you feel about being a big sister?" Elena asked. "A biological one this time?" Mia's eyes went wide. "You're having a baby?" "Apparently, yes." Oh my gosh, oh my gosh! Can I tell Marcus? Can I pick the name? Is it going to be a boy or girl? When's it coming? Do we need a bigger apartment? The questions tumbled out in rapid succession. "We don't know most of those answers yet," Daniel said, laughing despite his own shock. "But yes, you can tell Marcus and help with the name. And yes, we probably need a bigger apartment." The pregnancy progressed with the kind of complications expected for a woman Elena's age. More doctor's appointments than seemed reasonable, careful monitoring, moments of genuine fear when test results came back concerning. But underneath the worry was joy, pure, uncomplicated joy that they were getting to build their family in yet another unexpected way. They moved to a 3-bedroom apartment in November, giving themselves space for the baby while keeping Mia's room sacred. Marcus helped them pack, treating the move like he was still part of the family, which he was. Sarah threw Elena a baby shower, an act of grace that made Daniel appreciate how far they'd all come. The baby, a girl they named Grace after Elena's grandmother, arrived in early March, small and healthy and perfect. Daniel held his daughter and felt the same overwhelming love he'd felt when Mia was born, but different too, deeper maybe, more certain. Mia was besotted with her baby sister, helping with diaper changes and bottle feedings and singing terrible lullabies she made up on the spot. Marcus visited the hospital and cried when he held Grace, overwhelmed by getting to be part of this moment. "She's so tiny," he whispered. "You can visit her any time," Elena said. "You're her big brother too. Not biologically, but in all the ways that count." The first few months were chaos, sleepless nights, constant feeding, the particular exhaustion that came with a newborn. But this time, Daniel wasn't doing it alone. Elena handled the night feedings with calm efficiency. Mia helped entertain the baby during the day. Even Sarah took shifts, watching Grace so Daniel and Elena could sleep. Their family had expanded in ways Daniel never could have predicted. A blended, complicated, beautiful family built from broken pieces and second chances. On a quiet evening in June, when Grace was 3 months old and finally sleeping for longer stretches, Daniel found Elena on their balcony watching the sunset. "Remember when you asked me if the age thing bothered me?" he said, settling beside her. "That was years ago." "I know, but I've been thinking about it. About all the times people have judged us or made assumptions or told us we were doing things wrong." Daniel took her hand. "And I realized none of it matters. Not the age gap, not the complicated family structure, not whether we're doing things the right way. What matters is this, us, our weird, beautiful, imperfect family." Elena leaned against him. "We did okay, didn't we? For 2 people who had no idea what they were doing." "We did better than okay. We built something real. Something worth keeping. Definitely worth keeping." They sat in comfortable silence, watching Columbus settle into evening. Inside, they could hear Mia singing to Grace, her voice off-key, but full of love. In a few hours, Marcus would video call for his weekly check-in. Tomorrow, Sarah would stop by to see the girls. Their life was full of people and complications and the beautiful mess of family. Years later, when people asked Daniel how he and Elena had made it work despite the age difference and the complicated circumstances, he would think back to that broken coffee machine. To Elena's question, "Doesn't it bother you that I'm older?" It never did. Not when they argued about parenting strategies or navigated ex-wife dynamics or survived sleepless nights with a newborn. Not when Elena turned 50 and Daniel was still in his early 40s. Not when people made assumptions or offered unsolicited opinions or questioned their choices. Because what they'd built wasn't about age or conventional timelines or doing things the right way. It was about two broken people choosing each other honestly. About building a family from whatever pieces life offered. About showing up consistently, even when it was hard. On their 5th anniversary, Elena gave him a framed photo of that 4th-floor break room where they'd met. "To remind you," she said, "that the best things in life come from broken coffee machines and taking chances on people who don't fit the mold." Daniel hung it in their bedroom, a reminder that love didn't have to make sense to everyone else. It just had to make sense to the people living it, and theirs made perfect sense. Mia graduated high school eventually, with Elena and Sarah both crying in the audience while Daniel tried to hold it together. Marcus got his driver's license and immediately drove to their house to show them. Grace learned to walk, then talk, then ask impossible questions about why the sky was blue and where babies came from, and whether families could be different shapes. "Families are always different shapes," Elena told her. "Ours just happens to be particularly creative." The coffee machine in Daniel's office building eventually broke for good, replaced by a fancier model that never quite worked as well. But Daniel kept the manual from the old one, tucked into his desk drawer. Sometimes, late at night when he couldn't sleep, he'd think about that afternoon when a stranger fixed a coffee machine and everything changed. How one small moment of connection led to coffee dates and honest conversations and a life he never could have planned. Elena would wake up, find him lost in thought, and ask what he was thinking about. "Us," he'd say, "how we got here." "Any regrets?" Not even one. She'd smile, pull him back to bed, and they'd fall asleep tangled together. A single dad who'd stopped looking for love, and a woman who'd given up on conventional happiness, building a life that made sense to no one but them. It was messy. It was complicated. It was unconventional. It was perfect. And when Daniel thought about all the years ahead, watching their daughters grow, navigating the continuing evolution of their blended family, growing old together at different rates, he felt nothing but gratitude. For broken coffee machines, for women who were brave enough to ask hard questions, for second chances and honest conversations and choosing love carefully, for building something real from the pieces life handed them. For Elena, who taught him that age was just a number and love was a choice you made every single day. The numbers never mattered, not really. What mattered was showing up, being honest, building something worth keeping. They did that, together, and it was enough. More than enough. It was everything.